Friday morning is here. It's a major decision day for one of the top prospects in all of high school football, one of the top college football prospects, Dejoun Lee. That's something we've got to talk about. We also have a special guest. For those of you that have tuned into the channel before, it's a familiar face, one that you will recognize, but one we are very excited to get back on the panel. And then we have two very familiar faces right down there at the bottom. So, guys, we're going to kick this off as we always do, going around the table, letting everybody let the people know where they can find your content, where they can find your Twitters, Instagrams, the whole 9 yards. RJ, we'll start with you and then go down the line.
Absolutely, man. What's going on, y'all? RJ Malone out here in Arizona right now playing arena football, former NFL player. I also played in college, and I've got some connections with some guys right now. I'm training some guys back in the city in Louisville, Kentucky, and anywhere in the South. So if you want to, follow me, and I'm always talking to my kids. If you just want to follow me, just see what's going on, see what a daily day looks like, an athlete's, lifestyle, man. I do that. My Instagram's right here on my handle, man. So follow me on Instagram, give me a shout. I'm on Facebook as well, but I got like so many people on Facebook that's already following me, so I got like 2 pages. So just follow me on Instagram, man. Instagram's quicker. And I'm glad to be back on with you guys, man.
Happy you're here, man. It's been far too long. Far too long. Jake,
Yo, good
released a new
morning.
YouTube channel.
Yes, man, I did. I also released another, besides just a welcome video, there's a real video on there now. So if you guys haven't checked it out, nah, man. Hey, Steve, I see you in the chat. Good to see you, man. Steven Engel. Steven G, what's going on, brother? How you doing? Kenny, hey, what's up, Kyle? How you doing, man? Good to see you. Hope you had a good birthday a few weeks ago. But Brandon, what's up? And just released the videos on Dawson Merritt and the commitment. Go check it out. It's hopefully you guys enjoy the video. We'll see. We're continue to get in there, but yeah, man, set the tone. Alabama and college football talk. If you search just take my Twitter name. If you follow me on Twitter. And you plug that into YouTube search, you can find my channel. It's brand. I mean, we're talking like brand spanking new. So get over there, check it out. Let me know what you think. Drop comments in, say what's up. Become a subscribe there. Send up the likes. But it's a lot of fun, man. Really appreciate everybody for the help too. These guys helped me out a ton, so couldn't have done it without you guys. So thank you.
Coach Sean, as you all know, aka SPH. You can hit me at Just My Humble Opinion. It's just JMHO, Just My Humble Opinion Sports Talk. That's at Twitter and YouTube, JMHO Sports Talk. Appreciate everybody's reactions, everybody tapping in and hitting me and questions, and it's been real fun, man. And much love to Ty, and a pleasure to meet RJ, man. My brother Jake as usual. Just a pleasure to be here, man. Ready to talk some ball.
Let's get it.
Glad y'all are here. Glad y'all are here as always. I'm trying to figure out, and I think we are now going. Oh, we are about to go live to Twitter for the very first time. We are now live on Twitter.
Boom.
Never done that one before.
That's cool, man.
We're
live on Twitter.
Oh, God. Oh, boy. Right? This could be a major mistake, but nonetheless, we're doing it. So let's kick it off, right?
Bishop.
Guys, we got a lot of recruiting to talk about, but RJ, I wanted to hear from you real fast because I get this question a lot, right? And earlier on in the week, maybe it was last week. I mean, time flies right now, right? We're in recruiting season. So I look up and 5 days have passed. 17 videos have come out. I had someone asking me why there's this thought process out there that there's this SEC superiority. And I was saying some comments in the video, and the individual was like, hey, that's just kind of all, for lack of a better word, the propaganda you hear. He's like, the SEC is not really different. And I was telling him, I was like, no, the SEC is different, right? Like each conference has different stylistic play. But the SEC, I was like, they get so many people drafted. It's just a different league. So I wanted to have you talk about this for a bit. Because Texas, Oklahoma coming into the SEC, and I think they're both well prepared. I think Steve Sarkisian knows what the SEC looks like. I think Brent Venables knows what heavy defense and physicality looks like from being at Clemson. Let's be honest, Clemson was pretty much well modeled like an SEC team in the ACC. But Talk to the people about what makes the SEC different, because, ladies and gentlemen, RJ played both in the ACC and the SEC, so he knows the distinguishing factors between the conferences.
Speed. The speed difference in the SEC is astronomical as far as the athletes up front, the athletes you see on the outside. The backups are better than most people's starters that you'll see. I remember when I transferred to Louisville, we had practice. And the first practice, I'm going out there and I'm turned like, oh yeah, let's get it, man. Let's go to work. Because in Kentucky, we used to we going to work, like we going at war, we just war. Like, and I get to Louisville and I'm like, what is this? Like, oh, y'all ain't as fast as it's a backup that's like a million times like, okay. So the difference is the quality of backups that you're going up against in the SEC is 10 times better than what you'll see as a starter from another school, if that makes any sense. You will spend a whole 3 weeks getting ready. So when I was at UK, prime example, when I was at UK, it was 2010. We had Cam Newton that year. So it was the 2010, the Newton-Cobb game, we like to call it. That whole week, we had like an offensive lineman he was pretending to be Cam Newton. Like a defensive end, he was pretending to be Cam Newton. And like at Louisville, we didn't have nobody that could do that. We didn't have 6'6", 255 with that kind of speed. We didn't have that. So it's just the speed difference is crazy. When you get out here and you actually play against these people and you start seeing like, okay, like the SEC, it ain't just talk. Like it's real. Like you're gonna go out there and you're gonna be more prepared because you playing against people that's better than what you're gonna see as a starter. You know what I'm saying? So it's just different. It's real different. You got to come with a different mindset. Every week you got to be on your P's and Q's because you never know. You know what I'm saying? Like you just never know, man. Like 1 week we got, 1 week we got Tennessee. Next week we got Georgia. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, and then the week after that we got, we got Alabama, and then we got Mississippi. Like, it's crazy. It's different. You just got to be prepared for that mentally, physically, and a lot of people ain't. So when you see a lot of people on here talking about the SEC, and that's because they ain't played. No offense to none of y'all, so you ain't played. It's different. It's a huge difference than going somewhere else and playing ball. And you can see it too, if you know what you're looking for.
And Jake, before I pass the same topic to you, this is something that always stands out to me. We were talking about this not too long ago, RJ, and you could be the number 12 recruiting class in the nation. And you're sitting there thinking, okay, we just got a top 15 recruiting class. That puts us in contention for pushing for a college football playoff. Well, if you're in the SEC, you're number 7 in the SEC. You're 12 in the nation, but you're not even top 5 in your own conference in recruiting. And that, to me, has always been one of the biggest differentiating factors between the SEC and everywhere else. It's like, okay, it's not just 2 or 3 teams that recruit well. If you're going to be in the top 15, you really need to be in the top 10 recruiting classes, because there's going to be 7 other teams if you're just outside the top 10 at 11 or 12 that have out-recruited you, and now they are your competition. I guess the transfer portal somewhat equalizes that depending on how you're using it, but at the end of the day, you got to accrue the talent. Jake, talk to me, man. Whenever you're watching, and you and Coach Sean both played, so I'm really excited to hear y'all's insight. What do y'all feel like outside of like speed? Because I think, RJ, you hit the nail on that one. What are some of the differentiating factors between the SEC and these other conferences?
Man, I think the other aspect is just depth, right? Because you go down, I guess, especially with the recruiting within the SEC, is you look at all the teams, that all of them have depth. If you compare that back to when I played Pac-12, okay, so Pac-12 is not saying you don't have depth on some teams, right? Because last year Pac-12 looked pretty dang good, right? But I would say, though, that some of the SC back in the day, they had depth, right? But you go to the SEC, one of the things I think you really, really see a lot of, right, is, I mean, you can go out there and recruit, and I think that's why the recruiting also is so heavy out there. California, they're having a really good year in recruiting, but I think it rotates through We've talked about like the big states as far as California, Georgia, Florida, Texas, Louisiana.
Yeah.
New Jersey always has something, but I'm talking like states with a lot of people though, right?
Yep.
And so it's interesting to see from a standpoint that there's so many kids in these areas that actually don't even get seen because there are so many kids.
People. You're right.
I mean, there's so much. So then you go and you look at these SEC teams. Like, I mean, we can look at the rosters of SEC team right now, maybe besides one.
Don't you dare talk about Vanderbilt like that.
Hey, man, look, no, it's a great school. I had a buddy who played there. You get quality education there, but the thing is its depth. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what it comes down to. It's the depth. The speed aspect's interesting, right? Because I can still remember going to like camps and playing against guys who were stars in the SEC, right? And I was a bigger safety at 6'3", 220, and I ran like a 4.4 40. So it's interesting when you take that, right, and you put that into just about. I mean, there's a ton of those dudes everywhere in the SEC, right? And you go back during Miami's reign, right? You had guys who were big like Sean Taylor who could run. You had guys from LSU from a safety standpoint who could run, Virginia Tech like a Cam Chancellor who could run, right? So, but at the same time, in the SEC, it felt like you had that almost on every single squad. And so it's interesting when you look at everywhere else and then you look at the SEC, it's just loaded with depth. And yeah, that's my take on that one.
Mm-hmm. Coach Sean.
For me, as a running back, when I look at the SEC, it's two things that really separate. I go to a lot of games, and to me, when I watch from my perspective, my position. Now, when I played college ball, if you look at the Alabama A&M program, Brooke, right now, it'll tell you 5'10", 210. I was about 5'9", 205 right now, right? I mean, well, then. Coach by 220 now, you know what I mean?
Hey, that's still good.
Yeah, it's good 220, but it's still, it's not 205 anymore. But when I look at the difference from the running back position, I think the SEC in the trenches is different.
Yeah.
The trenches is different because it's like, I can remember being a running back and you would always watch film and you say, okay, number 56 is a dog, man. This dude, he don't take plays off. This dude shedding blocks. We going over in the film study, how to block this dude, with plays. Are we going to run at him? They would take 56 out and put 82 in or 92, and 92 was lazy. He play hard on first down. He don't do nothing on third down. He just lean on offense. He allow himself to get blocked. Look. We gonna run counter right at his ass. You know what I mean?
Right.
SEC is like you take 56 out, they put a 91 in, and he a killer too. Like, wait a minute now. Who is
faster,
this dude?
Bigger, stronger, 6'5", 6'6".
Yes.
I remember we had a kid that was like 6'10". At UK, we had an offensive lineman. I swear to God, y'all, dude was 6'10", 3-something. And he ran faster than me.
Facts, man.
I'm 4'7'4". What are you? Who is this guy?
Who is this dude?
Where'd you find him?
Yeah.
He don't even play. That's crazy.
Yeah. Who is this guy?
He don't even play.
When I watched that, RJ, when I watched the SEC, especially the upper echelon teams, I go through that. Obviously the Bama roster, I know it personally. But when I watch the other teams, it's like, man, who is this dude? I'm always saying, who is this guy? Who is that guy? And I think late in the season, that's really different. That's really different than a lot of other leagues. Also, I'll say this: when you're talking about the SEC and the core of the SEC, kind of what the Jake spoke to, high school football is different here. From Texas, all the states you guys just named, add Texas in there, Bama. Remember, RJ, we play football here, Jake, year round.
Year round, bro.
Year round. Like if you don't play any other sport, you live for football all year. Like it never stops. In the winter, you're lifting. You come back early in the summer, like you lifting for football. Here in Alabama, we have an actual class. Like your period, you have first period, second period, third. Yeah. Your last period of the day is called athletics. So you lifting during school, like all year long.
Love it.
So the high school football is constantly going. It's different here. I know when I was living in Chicago, football was not a year-round sport. They stopped football and they would go to basketball. Now, basketball was a year-round sport up there. So that's I think that has always been a bigger key in the South. Football is a year-round sport. It never stops if you play just football. Now, if you play other sports, obviously you'll go, track, wrestling, for me, all these other different sports. But if you just play football, you're constantly lifting, constantly doing something, for football year round. And I think that carries over to the field. You see these big guys like RJ, big killers who can actually move. It's not these big slow guys who just strong and back in the 1990s where you can play one gap and that's all you can do. No, these big rascals can move, brother. Yeah. And they'll come get you. They can pass rush, can shed blocks, they can play two gaps, they can play a gap, they can play gap scheme, or can play, in a 4-2-5. They can play anything you line up in. And I think late in the season, that really shows his head as opposed to other leagues. Now you got teams real quickly. You got teams like Oklahoma. You got the cream of the crop in every other league that can play. They have those athletes. But when you talk about a full 12, 14 teams, I think you see more of that in the SEC than anywhere else.
Yeah, and I'm gonna throw something at you guys real quick. I want you guys to think about this. My kids, we were talking the week that U of L played Kentucky. We were talking, and after that, they came to me and they were just asking me questions like, "What'd you see? What was this? What was that?" And I was like, "Bro, I saw what I saw before the game. Like I told you guys that you guys' speed and stuff was going to eventually take over Louisville, because you got to think about it like this: Kentucky is building its roster to compete against LSU, Georgia, Bama, Missouri. Louisville's building this roster to compete against who? Clemson. I mean, I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's levels to it. So while Kentucky's trying to build their roster to get up with, you got Louisville, who's the cream of the crop of the ACC, but can't even beat because Kentucky's building towards beating a better opponent. You know what I'm saying? Their roster all around is better because they have a better. You know what I'm saying? So it makes that should make you guys think like, okay, that makes sense. You know what I mean?
No, 100. That's a man. You want to talk about a heck of a point. That's why I spoke on the depth aspect, because truly, in order to play at a high look, like speed is what you need, but in order to maintain speed, you need depth in a game because speed, just like as you run a 100-meter dash, you are fastest within your first 50 meters, and then you start to decrease. So how long can you maintain top speed? That's how you win the 100-meter dash. Pretty simple. The guy who maintains it the longest is the guy who's going to win, because everybody hits a point and starts to drop, right? And so it's the same thing when you look at like the SEC, and that is like the perfect way, I guess, of really putting it. RJ is saying, hey, you look at the depth and why it's built. It's built to beat these teams who continuously play king of the hill, right? Because you ain't getting up that hill, and it's going to be one hell of a fight in the SEC compared to, well, let's just say it, like Florida State last year, right? Do you think their fight up the hill in the ACC was as hard as anyone else's in the SEC? No, there was a reason why they were left out, So that's a really good point in saying like these are way these rosters are built, And
I want to hit this comment right here because Stoops wasn't wrong, right? Like Bob Stoops had a famous quote being like, "Oh, the top of the SEC is so great, but what about the bottom?" But the only reason why I always felt like, while it's one of those comments where it's like, you're not wrong, but it's also like saying if I took 12 Cokes, I now have, less Cokes than I previously had if I had 20. The reason why I frame it like that is because you can say that about every conference.
Yeah. Facts.
Right? Like, that's why whenever I looked at Bob Stoops' quote, I was like, well, that's, while correct, it's disingenuous. Your claim is, oh, well, it's all hype and propaganda because it's only the top 6 teams that are good. Well, what about the rest of the conference? Well, what about the Big 12? Right? Since 2000, the Big 12 has 2 national champions in Texas and Oklahoma, both fantastic teams. Since 2000, the SEC has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, spread between Auburn, Bama, Georgia, Florida, LSU. The ACC has 1, 2, 3, 4. The Big Ten has 3. So it's like, it's one of those things where, yeah, Bob Stoops was right. The SEC, of course, the teams at the top are better than the teams at the bottom. Texas and Oklahoma ran the Big 12, right? But one thing we always talked about is the Big 12 would cannibalize itself. The SEC largely will cannibalize itself with everything in that middle, right? Like if we're talking about a hamburger, the Bamas, the Georgias, they're one bun. Then you have the meat, and then the bottom teams are the bottom bun. That meat of the SEC just cannibalizes itself. So Stoops wasn't wrong, right? Like, of course, in every conference, we can pick the top 3-4 teams that are just better. But that's why I was like, yeah, you're right. But that's just like saying the sky is blue. So somehow I've disqualified your argument. It's like, I mean, you're right. But can't we say that about every day that the sky is blue? So how does that disqualify the sky being blue today?
Unless you're in Washington.
I mean, unless you're in Washington.
Gray.
And that's the thing that I tell people too. Like they ask me questions, they'll be like, "Oh, you saw them beat the SEC? What happened to the mighty SEC?" Okay, now tell them to come back next week and play Georgia. And you come back next week. Now we got Tennessee. Yes. Now come back next week. Now we got Ole Miss. Yes. I'm telling y'all, it's crazy. Like the preparation that you got to go through to go to every week, bro, is insane. I went from preparing for Cam Newton one week to Tebow the next week, like crazy, like insane. Like where do we rest, bro? Like you don't understand. Like you just went up against one team. That's cool. Yeah. You beat Missouri. That's cool. Now come back and play Tennessee next week. Then the week after that, we'll see. We're gonna send you all the way to Ole Miss, and then you got to come back crib. You got to play Mississippi State. Then don't worry about it. And 2 weeks later, you got Bama. Like it's insane. It's insane, bro.
See, and Travis, I've heard you say this before, but I patently disagree, right? And I know your contention is that because more SEC teams have won a national championship, it's easier to win a national championship in the SEC. But that doesn't make any sense when it's followed by a strength of schedule. And when they're talking about how hard your schedule is, it's harder than other conferences. So I don't necessarily think correlation equals causation. Right. Like I've thought about that argument for a long time. I've put my debate hat on and it doesn't, the math ain't mathin'. Right. And I've heard, I was on a show when we talked about that, but it doesn't really make sense whenever you take a step back and logically think about it. Right. And I'm looking at this from an unbiased debate perspective, which is what my, background. That part to me, I think we're getting hung up on correlation equaling causation, and that's not always the same. I mean, here's the thing. RJ, you played in the SEC. Would you say that it's easier to win a national championship in the SEC?
Absolutely not. Get out of here. I don't even know how teams make it to the championship. Crazy. Like you got to understand how many teams they beating every week, and everybody's staying healthy. You know, sustain no injuries, and if you do sustain injuries, let's say you Alabama, somebody gets injured, don't worry about it. The dude that you got behind him was probably better than the starter.
Now, the one thing I can say is that maybe if we look at it from a perspective of if you get to that point, you're so battle tested that like when you play the national championship, it is then easier to win. That mindset I could agree with, but I don't think that just because like it's going to be easier for a bunch of teams to win in the SEC because it's so hard to get out of the SEC. So if you're talking, Travis, from the perspective of like, oh, well, it's a difficult schedule. And then when you get there, you're so battle tested, then you can take out these other teams because you'd be able to go and be more prepared. Then I could agree. Right. But like, outside of that, I just think that it's more difficult to get there. You're just playing such a physical game, right? And that's part of the reason why I think OU and Texas are perfectly prepped for the SEC. It's because that's the style of ball they have played. It's why they have ran the Big 12, right? I will say in the college football playoff era, it's much easier to get to the national championship whenever you don't have to worry as much about the teams in your conference.
Look at Michigan State.
Yeah, I can agree with that right there. Yeah. Like it just you have to come up every single week. That I agree with. I 100% agree with.
Do you guys remember Michigan State? Michigan State kind of walked through the Big Ten that year. You know what I'm saying? They was a good team, right? It was a good team. Yeah. They played Bama in the first round, man. It was just like I mean, I can remember some of the players I still talk to. They was telling me it's like a practice game, right? And I'm gonna tell you this too. The same thing happened with Oklahoma that year. Oklahoma had a very good team with Jalen Hurts. Very good team, right?
Mhm.
When Jalen finally got his feet under him, Oklahoma was whipping up on people. I know they had whatever the schedule was, but they played LSU. And that was a great LSU team. But for as great as that LSU team was, that they beat Bama 46-41 with a gimpy Tua on one leg, right? You know, Devontae Smith had over 200 yards in that game against that corner that first, I forgot his name, the first round corner who played for the Texans, I think, right now.
Daryl Stingley.
Stingley, yeah. So think about what I'm saying. Take these great teams who are all great teams. Oh, and I give it to Ohio State, but it's just the truth. The truth is in the details, man. COVID year, everybody want to make all these excuses. Well, it's just COVID. Well, I can remember before the game, Ohio State fans clamoring to play in that game. We're Ohio State. It's just 6 games. We dominated the 6 games, right?
Yep.
They talk about the starters they had out. They had 4 starters out: a punter, Tommy Togiai, another defensive lineman, and somebody else. They had 4 starters. The actual truth is Alabama had more starters out than they did. Malachi Moore didn't play. Landon Dickerson didn't play. It was 2 other 3. Shaheem Carter. There was a couple dudes that didn't play in that game. Jalen Armour Davis. There's a couple of guys didn't play in that game, and the players was laughing at halftime about it. Now they're going to come out in the press conference and say all the great things, like Najee. Oh, Ohio State was awesome. They was just like, bro, Texas A&M would have beat that team. That they was talking about it after the game. Like, bro, if you guys don't think that the SEC competition from week to week is different, I ask you this question for any other conference, and this is no disrespect to no other conference. Texas A&M, you would play Tennessee one week, Florida the next week, Ole Miss, LSU, then Bama. It's a lot of teams in the other conferences that would not make that. Sure, you can come out and play well the first game of the season against LSU. Great, right? But let me see you play Tennessee the week after that. Ole Miss the week after that. Florida the week after that. Yeah.
It's mental. It's a mental grind because you got to understand, as college athletes, we don't get a whole week to prepare. Like, bro, we got classes and all that. So really, everything's chopped up.
Yep.
We getting half of what y'all think we get for practice time. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
so
yeah.
to put it in perspective, bro, like I really get maybe 3 days to prepare for Florida, and then 2 days later here come Bama, and then 3 days later here come LSU, and then okay, now we got a cupcake. You know what I'm saying? Or we play Louisville, which is it depends on the year that you want to talk about Louisville. Okay, don't worry about it. Now here come Ole Miss. Like it's and then like as a player, you got to mentally prepare because you're not getting no breaks, bro. Like it's not like the Big 12 where like, oh, now we playing, Baylor or something this week. Like, nah, bro, you tweaking. Like, Vanderbilt's crazy. I played Vanderbilt 3 times, bro. Them dudes, they can play ball, bro. It shocked the hell out of me. They can play ball, bro. They got some dudes. They got some dudes over there in Tennessee, bro.
No,
Tennessee, Vanderbilt, they got some guys down there, man. So people just overlook it, man, and don't understand from a player standpoint that that's what we really mean when we say that the SEC is the toughest conference. Like everybody else tries to go to all the other stuff. Nah, bro, like it's on the field. Like gameplay, we got the week, the physicality is you got to bring, especially when you play in a certain position. Like I was an edge, guys, as linebacker. So like every week, like anybody you can think of, bro, that played in the SEC, even the 2010s, I probably played against them. Like, you know what I'm saying? So physically, one week I got to play. We played against the Pounces. All right. Next week, I got Larry Tunsil. You know what I'm saying? Like, crazy. Like, you got to understand that part of it as well. You feel me? So people don't understand that, but, it is what it is, man. We just let people run off with their nerves, man. But it's really a grind, bro, to go in the SEC. And if you're going to be any good, you got to grind, bro.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Real talk.
Well, Cooper, thank you for jumping in here before I pass it to you. Trojan says all we have heard for years is other conference teams would be basement teams in the SEC. Not every team in every conference, Trojan. There's a reason why I have maintained that Texas and Oklahoma, right? Like I think that part of the reason why some Texas and Oklahoma fans don't agree with this narrative is because they look at their own team, and especially in the current capacity, Oklahoma under Brent Venables, Texas in the direction they're going, and they're like, oh, well, what about us, right? Like, you just think we're going to be bottom feeder teams in the SEC? And it's like, no, y'all have been prepping for this style of ball with coaches that understand what it takes to win. Clemson, right, played a quasi-SEC style of ball whenever Brent Venables was the defensive coordinator there. Todd Bates, the defensive line coach. I mean, it was a physical defense. That defensive line was mauling, and it really allowed them to separate themselves from the rest of the ACC during that time period, right? Texas has been building towards something. That's while that might be a contention, Trojan, that's not how I view it. There are certainly other teams out there that could walk into the SEC, and if they were prepping for it, they'd be perfectly fine, right? Every conference has their own stylistic difference. Part of the reason why when A&M and Missouri first got to the SEC, they were giving these SEC teams a bit of problems because the Big 12 had that speed offense where it was very spread out, and the SEC wasn't doing that. And so when they saw something new, it was like, okay, wait, what's happening here? It's part of the reason why I think that's one of the best things to happen to the SEC, because it made them revolutionize what they do. So they had to then be just as physical, but now we have to be fast to be able to account for this. I thought it was a beautiful addition to the SEC. Coop, talk to me, man.
Yeah. So my stance is this: SEC makes it different because your second team and your third team guy are also dudes who are 4- and 5-star, legit purebred athletes. And so when you bring in, and I'm just going to say OU of Bob Stoops towards 2010 and beyond, and then the Lincoln Riley iteration, those guys could not compete in the SEC on a weekly basis. In a one-off, we've seen it. I mean, that team, that OU Alabama game. Wild. Let's go back to the one where Trevor Knight. I don't know if Jesus came into his body or somebody did, but Trevor Knight played out of his mind. People use that and point to that as an indicator that OU could stand up with Alabama, and I got to throw that one out because. I mean, for every OU fan who says, well, man, they were up for the game and, Bama wasn't, those guys kind of got it right, because same reason why Boise State beat Oklahoma in, the Shenanigans Bowl or whatever that one was, is you get to throw absolutely everything at somebody in one week, and that's it. Now you go the Jalen Hurts year to where OU's down 28-0. It's a different brand and it's a different breed. And so what I think the difference, and a lot of people don't want to talk about, is it's the fact that you have to be big in the trenches and you have to be deep in the trenches. Brent Venables and this coaching staff right now, it's no surprise that Todd Bates came from outside the Big 12. Miguel Chavis came outside the Big 12. Jay Valai came from Bama. All these coaches came from outside the Big 12 because that's what had to happen for OU and Texas to come into the SEC and to show out. So you look at Missouri. This past year, that was an exception. That wasn't the rule. Missouri hasn't done anything like that, and it's taken them years to get there. We've seen A&M, same situation. So what I think where a lot of people think is you got 14 teams screaming SEC, but really the victories have been coming from 3 or 4 teams, and that's where the diagnosis and diving in of information stops. That's where it stops, because they think, well, it's only those teams. The rest of the teams are crap. Florida's crap, Vanderbilt's crap, Mississippi State's crap. Well, that's not what it is. What it is you got to have the athletes in the depth piece. Right now, Oklahoma is a little shaky on projections for this year because offensive line is, you got brand new starters, you got almost no experience, and so people are looking at that offensive line. I promise you this, is if Oklahoma had a returning, runner-up for the Joe Moore Award in the offensive line, I think this outlook for Oklahoma this year is completely different. But this team has been built this year for the past couple of years, and the 6 and 7 year was house cleaning time, and it was a lack of depth. And Brent Venables had been preaching, and for everybody in the chat, competitive depth. This is where you guys got to take a drink. Competitive depth. So. You guys, it is competitive depth. You got to have people who can roll out, because like you said, and I love the Laramie Tunsil piece, because you go against a guy like that almost every single week. And you also have 65 analysts who are diagnosing your left side, strong side D end, or your middle linebacker. So you have all those things. And so you can't just show up and shenanigans and smoke and mirrors every single week. Somebody is going to catch up to that. The SEC has coaching that will wise up to that. And you got great coaches who are in the SEC who just can't show because they're good coaches, but they're not great. And so the people with the late season, and I used to be one of them, the late season, Maine or Valdosta State game and stuff like that. I mean, I just got to give mad props because Bama has continually, put a Virginia Tech, a Michigan State, a USC, guys like that out in front, at the beginning of the schedule when they don't have to. And so, just take it back up because I think for the SEC, and I'll speak from a complete unbiased portion right here, for the SEC schedule, if you are a Mississippi State fan, a Tennessee fan, guys like that, and if you think that OU is going to come in and it's Texas Tech North, like when Lincoln Riley was here, that those days are gone. They have been building this team for 3 years, and so those days are gone. Now, do I think that Oklahoma comes in and plants a flag in the middle of the SEC this year? No, I think that there are going to be bumps and bruises along the way, and I think that the transfer portal and some of the development on the offensive line, that's not the concern that I once thought it was. But I think that the defense is going to really, really surprise some folks this year because it is going to be a very, very big piece. And Sean, I'll comment on that one. The competitive depth does matter because it is harder to just go up and throw a 50 up every single week. You can't do it just every single week. It's absolutely hard. And if you take your eyes off the prize, and if you come off of a stretch where you go Texas, Georgia, Auburn, and then you get Mississippi State or Florida and this iteration, you can't take your eyes off the prize. You've got to stay grind. You've got to stay in, focused in. And I agree with everything you said, Ty. There are, and I'm pretty sure everybody on the panel feels the same way. You can pull a couple of other teams from outside, the SEC to go in the SEC, and they can compete. But I promise you this: if you bring in USC, it's going to be sad. There's a reason why Lincoln Riley went to SEC or went to the Pac-12, and there's a reason why he's canceling games with SEC teams. It's not good for the brand, and it's not. Sorry, Jesus, chicken shit. It's just intelligence. I mean, I want to trash on Lincoln Riley today, tomorrow, and then next week too. But I'm kind of over it because everybody now gets to see, and everybody has now seen the sour grapes from Oklahoma fans for the past couple of years. Now everybody's like, oh shit, they were kind of right. And so the SEC and the Big Ten are absolutely separating themselves, but SEC still is top to bottom the most competitive league. And it's not just because of Bama, LSU, Georgia. It's because the third string defensive tackle still weighs 315 and still can bench press 415. Whereas Oklahoma in the past has had a guy who is third string and man, he's
a walk on.
He's 280. Yeah. And so you got to have that depth. And for Oklahoma fans that think that they're going to run into the SEC and it's going to be 12-0,
nah,
that's the exception. That's the minority of people. Most people are pretty well grounded. And here's the deal: is we get really, really cool football starting this year across the SEC. Now, I'm not going to go off on Texas because I feel like they're in a completely different world right now. But for the college football fan, I mean, this is what we've been asking for. We want more competitive games because I promise you turn on CBS at 2:30 and it's Vanderbilt, Mississippi State. I mean, some of those that's still a better game than Baylor, Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and one of the things, Sean, and I want to hit these two donations before we talk some recruiting. Sean says, what does competitive depth matter if OU scores 50 on you? Well, then why is Brent Venables pushing so hard for the competitive depth, right? Like the guy is brilliant. There's a reason why I remain high on, because I love the coaching staff y'all assembled. Retaining Murray, retaining Bill Biedenbow, going and getting Schmitty as your strength and conditioning coach, getting Todd Bates, Miguel Chavis. You got Emmett Jones, Brandon Hall, Emmett Jay Valai, right? Like you guys have assembled a coaching staff that understands what it takes to win. But what does competitive depth matter if OU scores 50 on you? OU's had a great offense forever. What competitive depth matters is not having that national championship since 2000, right? Like you start getting that competitive depth, all of a sudden those conversations change. And that's why Brent Venables walked into Oklahoma. And what has he done? Top 10 recruiting class after top 10 recruiting class after top 10 recruiting class. And as we sit here and speak, he's looking like he's on his way to another top 10 recruiting class. But and Sean, this doesn't make much sense because why can't you score in your contention? My point was OU can score 50 on you, but now you can't score 50 on OU. Why? Because of the competitive depth. That's what y'all have been assembling. So that's kind of like arguing in and of itself the same point, right? Like that doesn't hold the most water in my opinion. Guys, let me hit these 2 donations because Adam has donated $20 right here saying we rarely discuss the importance of time of possession. Teams that can score too quickly exhaust their defenses, and that leads to shootouts. A run-heavy Michigan style of offense is ideal. And it's weird, Adam, because there's ebbs and flows in football, and I think it's a balancing act.
Not with everybody.
Yeah, it's a balancing act, right? Like you want to be able to be explosive and score, but you also want to be able to control. It's that balance. Go ahead, Jake.
And that's interesting you say that because in order to do that, got another question with Adam. Appreciate you, Adam, man. You're on fire this morning. But it's interesting to do that because you got to be able to score fast because what happens when you're in situations where you need to score fast, your run game doesn't provide you that opportunity because most of these teams are meant to stop the run. That's the entire purpose of defenses, right? That's why they run these new style hybrid defenses because we need to get, more in the box. We want to have +1 over the top, right? So, it's crazy that the run I don't think is necessarily like the way to roll. Yes, you need a strong run game because a pass game sets up the run game, a run game sets up the pass game. But really, where you control it, right, is in defense. Right, your defense being able to get stops is what controls that time frame. And then I guess Adam, your question. I'm sorry, Ty, I didn't see that.
Yeah. Thank you for the $10 donations, Adam. Saying, Jake, what scheme do you think is most effective in stopping spread offenses? This is going to be a great discussion. And then RJ, after Jake goes, I'd love for you to hop in onto this one as well.
Yeah, Adam. So real quick, I just want to clarify on what he's asking. So are you asking scheme as far as like what defensive scheme, or are you talking like different coverages or different type of defense, like a 4-3, 3-4, 4-2-5? Which one are you looking at, man? Like that's what I want to clarify. If one of you guys maybe can clarify for me.
I would think he's meaning like, whether it's a 3-4, 3-4 nickel, 4-2-5 nickel, right? Like I think that's a 3-3-5, something. Yeah,
okay. That. I'll be honest with you. What's going on right now is you're seeing basically the 3-4 nickel, which it's so funny, man, because there's the traditional 4-2-5, right? Yep. That's meant to bring the pressure, have an extra DB on the field. Okay. It has now turned into multiple hybrid positions. You'll see that at Bama this year, which is it's a 3-4 nickel. Okay. Where you will have you can still go in a 4-down look by bringing up what they would call, Bama calls their guy the wolf and the bandit, right? Their bandit's a traditional defensive end. Their wolf is basically an outside linebacker rush edge, very similar to a style. I'm trying to think of who would play this. I'm trying to think. Maybe Von Miller had that ability, athletic ability, where he could still drop back, right? But then he could come off the edge, and he had just the speed and tenacity. So you see that, like Dawson Merritt, the last guy we just got, who just committed to Bama. He's a great example of the versatility you need. If you watch Dawson in coverage when he lines up out wide, right, and he's back off the line, and he does want line up and drops into coverage. His coverage skills are phenomenal. But then watch him in his pass rush come off the edge when he's showing a 4-down look, and the dude has great hand and arm strength, right? And he has really good bend, and he gets around that wheel, man, to get to that quarterback with doing a great job also of setting the edge. So you look at those types of guys, and then you look at guys like what we're looking at now, right? With again, like these safety hybrid linebackers. I'm going to be honest with you. For me, this would have been the perfect defense for me. Like I would have that Husky position that we now run. That would have been the position. I mean, 6'3", 220, and I that would have been the position where you can come up, you can play run really well. You can come off the edge. You can be your either your force player, right, forcing them back inside, or your alley guy, right, and making that tackle, or you can get back into coverage with these like zone drop reads, and you're going to see some different things, which I'm excited to watch from a standpoint of getting. You'll still see pattern match to an extent, right? Because everyone still runs like a pattern match to an extent. You might not see the details and the rules of it, right? Like especially with a pattern match Ripley's cover 3, right? Like that's a little different compared to like a quarters pattern match. Okay. And when you're looking at like these guys and what they're doing now, this new hybrid defense of pulling concepts to make sure that our box is still stacked, yet we can still utilize either our square or our triangle, because on different sides of the ball, you're either going to have a square coverage, okay, or you're going to have a triangle, right? Yes, thank you. And so, and the way I say that is because a lot of people don't realize that the coverage either makes a square or it makes a triangle.
Triangle, yep.
Yep. So you have to see that no matter what defense you see, that's what you will see coverage wise. Go watch and break down, pause the film, look at it, either makes a square or a triangle. Okay. Right. And those, depending on type of athletes now, you can put into those positions to utilize their abilities, but also like your advantages in your strengths with your guys. That's what you're starting to see with this defense. So I think this new like hybrid look, the 3-3-5 what Oklahoma runs, right, is fun. But again, it's funny how it's ran because it is very, very similar to the 3-4 nickel.
Same thing.
Everybody's running a very similar set. Yeah.
We talk about it, and I think somebody said Isaiah Simmons, but one of the things, and you see it in recruiting, is positionless football. You've got safeties who can cover like a corner. You've got outside linebackers who can run like a safety. And so you got to have that. But I mean, when Texas Tech is successful, it all starts up front. It all starts with pressure. Oh, yeah. And if you can't make any pressure, Oklahoma faced a ton outside of Texas and early against Arizona. OU faced a lot of max protect this past year. And if you cannot actually push that line, if you can't play in the backfield, that's where it gets tossed, because I mean the spread offense was really this generation's version of the triple option. It was to take advantage of lesser athletes and to spread it out. And you can't play in a box. You gotta completely put one-on-one and have just multiple options. So it starts up front. But I mean, Jake, as you were saying, and I love your take on that one, is if you are running 3-4, 3-3-5, whatever one it is, you're making, and I always tell my daughter this in soccer, listen, if they want to make mistakes, let's let them make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And if as long as you keep the top cover on and you make them take the ball multiple plays, and you got to keep being successful all the way down the field, that's hard for guys who are used to 60-second scoring drives. And a mistake will happen. And it doesn't have to be a bad mistake. It could be a tip ball, off the wide receiver. It could be a guy catching the ball and the ball getting popped up. It could be, 3 guys flooding to the ball and something behind. And each football play that is out there, it's a chance for the defense to make their impact also. And so that the 3-3-5 is one that Iowa State, when they incorporated that, they became the go-to defense in the Big 12, and that, we live in a copycat league. So the copycat league, everybody else starts doing it. Now, how do you beat the 3-3-5? I mean, you got to run the ball effectively, do well in front, and when they start creeping up, that's when you've got more space behind that level of linebackers. And then you have to actually put business decisions on the field for these corners to tackle tight ends, tackle running backs in space. And if the corners can hold up, you're golden. If the corners can't hold up and they don't want to come up and make business decisions, then that's when you can take the top off because they're worried about making that next tackle, with wide receiver squared up in front of them.
Well, I mean, dude, you said, and real quick, I'm going to get off and let someone else take this up. And RJ, honestly, you probably could get to this too from the standpoint, but the whole key, and I see everybody's comments. I see like 3 high safety. I'm going to be honest with you. A 3 high safety look is never, it's not what you do.
You're pulling a lot of resources out.
Yeah, man. It's either middle field open or middle field closed.
Unless you have Sean Taylor, please don't do that.
Nah, yeah, 100. I mean, that just doesn't. That's brutal. But well, as you said, with this D line, like with what you're looking at now, these pieces that are being recognized as your most valuable pieces are now your D linemen. Like who can put pressure on the quarterback in a 3-3-5 and a 3-4 nickel and a 4-2-5, your anchor, even in the 4-4 or 4-4-3, your anchors come down to those defensive linemen. And honestly, it's how much of the space from like what a lot of guys look at as these outside guys in their rushing, right? But how do those guys get to the quarterback? Well, that becomes your D tackle, your nose tackle. Those guys have to be able to be such a force that their 2 guys have to take them up. So you get one-on-one matchups, right? So that is this idea now of why you're seeing the value and why I think especially in the SEC from a standpoint of linemen, why like we look at, hey, what do these defensive lines look like? Because that's going to indicate a lot of what's going to probably happen to your defense going into the season.
Yeah. And honestly, when you look at offensive linemen, the one thing that they like, they want to see odd fronts. Offensive linemen want to see odd fronts because that means that they can double. Now, what they don't want is a dominant defensive tackle that's going to turn the single coverages into one double, and now everybody's got an assignment. They don't want to do that. Yeah. So what you want to do is, what I would like to do is I'm a 3-4 guy. What I would do is, and it just kind of depends on my guys. You also it depends on the kind of corners you have, the kind of safety you have. Do you have safeties that can cover? Do you have box safeties? Do I need to get these safeties out of here because I'm playing Oklahoma this week? And do I need to get corners back there as safety that can cover this guy? Who's over? Who's in the slot? Okay, now I got to figure out who can cover this guy this week, or do we just? Am I getting home this week? Am I pressure? Pressure number one. If we getting home, we don't really even need to worry about nothing else. If I can get 8-9 sacks, and it don't matter what coverage you run, it don't matter what defense you run, we gon' do that, call it a day.
Yep.
But you really just gotta match up athlete for athlete. It don't really matter what defense you run. You really just have to match up athlete for athlete with the teams you're going against. The team that executes the most, the team that has the best athletes is going to win that game. So like I said, it just kind of goes back to roster build and all this stuff, and it goes back to the coordinators. So I mean, the spread offense is good if you're going up against a team that doesn't have the athletes to cover the space that it's trying to create. So you like they said, when you play a spread offense, they're trying to create space against mismatches on your guys that aren't really athletes. I mean, I'm one of those guys. I was an athlete, so I can play the edge. Yeah. I can bend the edge. I can put my hand out. I can long arm. I can rip the edge. I can bend the edge. But I can also bend the edge and get back. With my foot in the ground. Boom, turn out, go 45 and scream to the flat. You got guys that can do that. Is a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a fact.
And I'll say this is also, if you're thinking spread offense, there's a lot of iterations of the spread offense.
Yes,
when
there are.
Lincoln Riley came to Oklahoma, he could not run Texas Tech spread offense. You had to run the ball. So it is so like with Jeff Levy, he did that same kind of tree that the Jeff we won't say his name from his father-in-law, but this you have to be able to run the ball, and that's where when Oklahoma was playing Georgia in the Rose Bowl, you saw that Oklahoma could come in and run the ball. Now, no defense came with our team that day, but you got to be able to run the ball on top of the spread, because if it's just, hey, let's line up and cover 4 wide, 5 wide, I don't think that plays in a big time conference. That it doesn't have a space in a big time conference, because I still say that your nickel or your dime corner is probably going to be a better athlete than the number 5 wide receiver that you're tossing out there. And if you look at somebody brought up Derek Stingley earlier. Derek Stingley looked like a future top 5 pick his freshman year. Why? Because the middle of that LSU defensive line was legit. And then when that got a little bit softer, Derek Stingley didn't look like Derek Stingley anymore. And he was out there making tackles and he was out there getting tested left and right. And then once again, they get a little bit more on the defensive line. Derek Stingley looks much better. So you got to play complementary football also. You got to have a defensive line that can create pressure. You got to have people who can set the edge, because if you don't, those defensive backs are only so good. And then it's 7-on-7, and 7-on-7 is hard to win for defense.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
100%. Yep. Keyway with the $5 saying, Ty, ask my coach what makes KD's offense work so well. Coach Sean, talk to us about Coach Kalen DeBoer and why this offense is so successful.
First of all, shout out to Keyway. Shout out to Jonathan Wiggins, Keyway LA as we call him. Shout out to you, man. Former player, A2 Eagles, University of North Alabama college player. Shout out to you and your family. Shout out to Lamont and Selena, your family. I appreciate you donating to the channel. Thank you so very much. In a nutshell, to me, complicated run scheme. Based off their run complexity, misdirection with athletic offensive linemen. They run counter they run counter in a variety of ways. I've seen when I watched that Oregon game, they ran one play 7 different ways with pass options built into the counter plays. They run counter with the guard. They run counter with the they run counter with the tight end. Believe it or not, that's a whole fact. Yeah, they pull the center, bro. Yeah, so they run trap. You know what I'm saying? So all of which can be wrapped off of in different things. They run truck sweeps in the misdirection. They run pin and pull. Remember, man, defenses can't penetrate fully with these type of plays, man. I saw one play where they brought motion to the short side of the field, right? They ran a play action pass. The center pulls and picks up the defensive end, right? The tight end chip blocks the defensive end, then releases across the formation like on a mesh route. They hit the tight end, right? Going across wide open in this big hole because the quarterback is rolling out in play action. And they ran that play like 3 different times and got first downs each time. So anytime you got offensive linemen that can pin, that can pull like that can run counter like that, it creates, and then you run the ball inside outside zone. You're still successful running the ball. It creates huge matchups, man. This guy runs motion 70 to 80% of the time, pre-snap motion. So anytime you can have something that we didn't do last year at Alabama very well, right? Anytime, as you know, Keyway, anytime, man, you can run pin and pull. I can get your linebackers focused on one thing. We running lots of misdirection, lots of counters, lots of spreading you out, getting you running back and forth. At some point, you're going to pop one. And I think this offense fits Jalen Milroe to a T. I think it would be very successful at Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was – and that's probably one of the biggest changes we're going to see from last year into this year is last year Alabama came with the philosophy of having this massive hulking offensive line. And now this year, you're going to see an offensive line that has got to be in space. They have got to be on the move. They have got to be athletic. And really, I think when you look at the interior 3, that's where I am so excited. Booker is incredible. Yeah. I mean, not too long ago, guys, we had that little highlight reel that I had. Someone had posted on Twitter. I think it was a scout or someone who I follow, and they were talking about Tyler Booker has NFL ready film right now. And we were breaking down that one play against A&M where he threw his dude straight out the club. Elijah Pritchett was in at left tackle. He ends up getting behind Elijah Pritchett, does Tyler Booker, handling his guy. And to start it all off, before he ever took the guard, he passed the nose to the center. So he basically set the block for the center for Seth, then threw his guy out the club and backpedaled behind Elijah Pritchett and then pancaked 3 blocks in one play. And I mean, it was like Picasso painting. I mean, that's what it was like watching that. It was beautiful to see. Jaden Roberts has a level of athleticism that this offensive line absolutely demands. I mean, I remember whenever he wasn't starting and he came in, we were talking about this on the Bama Standard, and I was like, honestly, some of the guys on that second team offensive line, talking specifically about Jaden Roberts, he had more pop than the guy that was at right guard, right? Like you could tell he was getting to the second level quicker with more ferocity. And I was like, man, it's only a matter of time before he gets that opportunity. Now you look and you have Parker Brailsford, who is one of the highest graded returning offensive linemen in the nation. You have Booker and you have Jaden Roberts. That's your interior three. I'm really, really, really excited about that interior three. I'm excited to see what Proctor is able to do in year 2. If he ends up winning this job, I think he will, right? And then I'm excited to see what this right tackle is going to look like, right? Whether that's Formby, whether that's Pritchett, but it is going to be a lot more fun.
Dude. Yeah, real quick, Ty.
I just want to chime in on that
real
quick. The one thing that people don't know about Alabama, when you play against Alabama, you'll notice they put their offensive line anywhere. It doesn't matter. Like you're a guard, you're gonna play tackle. Like just to throw off. So I'm a linebacker, and I remember one time I got in. You remember you guys had what was the kid's name? Smith. The guy that Andre Smith, is that his name?
Yep.
He was playing tackle. So the entire week, like we were, oh yeah, he likes doing this and he likes moving this way and doing that. But shit, during the game, they done moved him to guard and then they put somebody else in tackle. And then the next rotation, he's on the other side. And they done move this guy over here. Damn. Now I'm thrown off. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to do. And they did it like every other series, which is crazy. People don't catch on to that. Nick Saban was good at that, very good at that. Like he understand, like, all right, this guy's having a good day against this guy. Let's flip him. And his offensive lineman had the athleticism and the ability to do that. Not many people's offensive lines can do that. Like you can't just put somebody at guard, bro. Like it don't happen like that. Like you have to have the athleticism, the smarts, the footwork. You have to be nasty, the handwork, the movement, everything has to be there for you to be able to play 3 different positions in one game. That's one thing that Nick Saban was very, very good at, and was able to game plan, take his lineman and game plan for everybody every week. He was really good at that, man.
Well, I mean, you hit on the head with that one, RJ, because if you guys didn't catch it, there's a great interview. Coach Cap came on, Tide 100.9. Really awesome interview listening to him. But he talks about the versatility within the lineman. Like, he said there's no, at this point, right, spring ball, summer ball, there's no depth chart. I mean, we all kind of have an idea of what we're looking at, what we're going to expect to see, but there's no necessarily depth chart. But hey, one thing we want to do though is if we have those 5 guys who come out and we know our starters because we'll know our 5 in fall. But from there, if we have guys though who are pushing the starters, why not integrate the mix? Yes, you need the 5 guys to gel, but why not integrate guys in so they can rotate positions and they continue to build on their skill set? Like that's a big thing. Yeah, NFL, you can be used, a tackle, can be used as a guard can be used as a tackle. You're seeing this a lot right now. There's the NFL, you look at the draft and you look at the guys who were drafted, there's a lot versatility. The word is used a lot, but it's real because there's a lot of versatility. And I'll say this from a standpoint of these guys, right? You have Tyler Booker. We have seen his abilities. We have seen his interviews. The guy is solid, great leader, but he's not the only leader, right? There's other, like, okay, Ty, you and me did a video on Caden Proctor coming back, an amazing article written by 247 Sports regarding Caden Proctor and his growth, his personal growth, and how that becomes and translates to leadership in the locker room. Okay. We're about to see this guy go. He is going to skyrocket. We're going to watch him blow up this year. It's going to be amazing. The next part of that is Jaden Roberts. I think it's funny because there is those guys who are getting this attention here and there, and they're amazing. But Jaden Roberts, if his growth year to year has been huge. Year to year. And then you look at him physically, he's like all the guys early, but he's a physical specimen. I mean, the dude has veins ripping out his biceps playing offensive guard. Like you don't see that very often. Let's be honest. But his ability to move, his athleticism, you nailed that. Then I want to jump to Parker real quick because everyone gives Parker so much shit for being undersized. Well, you know what's funny is Parker is the perfect size. Here's what you need at that position. You need leverage so you don't get out leveraged. All right. You need somebody who has the ability to keep a good solid base because why? That's the middle of the field. Where do you need to be strong is in the middle of the field. Where do you need to maintain ground in the middle of the field? You listen to what Coach Cap says regarding Parker Brailsford. Not only is he a great communicator, not only does he have a very good handle on this offense, which is key, right? Key into making sure we are solid across the front five. But you look at the fact of his smarts, the way he thinks, and the fact that he even comes in and he helps Coach Cap, like just get a good feel, man. A good feel for that offense. Like that's huge because Coach Cap comes after the fact of them being there. Okay, they hire him after the fact, right? Because Huff leaves with Grubb. So, and then you got this last spot. Who's it going to be? And there's so many guys. There's a number of guys you could grab, right? Is it going to be Pritchett? Is it going to be Formby? You know, and I don't even want to leave out other guys such as like Rock Montgomery, right? And I mean, and there's other dudes in that line who are all putting in the work. But between like from that last tackle spot, Pritchett, Formby, who's it going to be? I know we saw Pritchett a lot from a standpoint of he was playing that left, right? But that line is going to be so solid. There's a reason why they should be the number one line in college football. And they will be finishing this year. That's why my money's all on them to win that Joe Moore Award, really, because you look at just, man, they are studly. Every single one of them, and they all have class, character, in the mindset of champions.
The Joe Moore Award this year is actually, I think, going to be one of the most fascinating awards to see who it's given to. LSU, right? And y'all know I have questions about LSU. I have genuine questions. I think offensively they're going to be fine. I'm excited to see who's going to take the role as their primary running back because let's be honest, Jaden Daniels was truly a do-it-all player for it. I mean, he was sensational. He was the rushing threat. He was automatic in the passing game. But now you don't have him. And I am actually one of the people, because I know that this is a topic that we always get some debate on. I like Nuss. I covered him in high school. I've watched him at LSU. I think he's a good quarterback, but you have to give him that running game to supplement what he does, right? I'm not worried about LSU on the outside. I know that they lost 2 guys to the draft, 2 incredible guys. It's LSU, right? Like there are a few colleges out there where it's like they just have wide receivers figured out. LSU is one of them. I'm not worried about them there. But defensively, that's where I have major questions about LSU because they didn't get a Dominic Williams. Shout out to Coop and OU. Y'all got a massive win there. Barrows at Miami, right? And you made great coaching hires, but will that translate to being the defense you need to be in year one? I don't know about year one. I know, don't get me wrong. If this coaching staff on defense stays together, I think in 2 to 3 years, that LSU defense is going to be looking real familiar, right? Real like the LSU defense we became accustomed to. But year one, I think there will be improvements, but it's almost like you were like in the 100s. You know what I mean? Like, are you going to jump 50, 60, 70 spots to be a top 30 defense in college football? I don't believe so. And at that point, that's where my questions come. But I don't question that offensive line. That's an offensive line that will probably be pushing for a Joe Moore award-winning unit. Texas has got an offensive line that's going to be pushing for that. I think Georgia's got a really solid offensive line they're excited about. Bama has an offensive line they're excited about. Michigan and Sharon Moore is still up there, right? He's an absolute dude. Miami's
got a good offensive line.
Cristobal and Marable always are going to have a solid offensive line, right? And it's funny because have y'all ever seen the pictures of Alex Mirabal standing next to his offensive lineman?
Yeah.
He's this
I told you I got a
dude.
kid that was just out there. They just went on a visit, man. And he was out there with the what was the kid, man? The pancake kid, man. Okanlola.
Oh yeah.
Lord, that kid is like Oh my God. And he was getting out of man, you can have it. That's
And
a
then
pro. That's a pro.
Noah out there was
That's a pro.
really good. Yeah. So
He's a pro.
offensive line is going to be such a good. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah.
Now Nichols with the 499 saying, "How does DeBoer's offense match up against Georgia's defense?" Coach Sean, I'm going to very quickly answer this, and then I want to hear your take on this. That's why, Nichols, I've been of the mindset, circle that game. I think if you love college football, you don't even have to be a Georgia fan. You don't have to be an Alabama fan. Circle that game, because we as college football fans are going to be getting treated to a high-level battle of schematics. We know Kirby's defense is legit because it's Saban's defense, right? It's analogous. And Kirby runs it well as anybody in the country can run a defense. But Dan Lanning also runs a similar defense, and Washington was able to have success there. Now, I grant you, Georgia is deeper in the process. Kirby is a more matured defensive mind than is Dan Lanning. He's seen a lot more. He's done a lot more, and they've recruited to that standard that he wanted to implement for longer than Dan Lanning has been at Oregon. So, of course, they're more battle ready. But I bring that to your attention to just kind of let you know from a schematic standpoint, Kalen DeBoer has seen something analogous to what Georgia will be running, and that's why I think this game is going to be fireworks for as long as these two coaches are battling it out. I think it's going to be one of the best schematic matchups we get all year, and it's a schematic matchup you may get more than once. Personally, I think you're going to get it more than once. Coach Sean, talk to me about how DeBoer's offense matches up against Georgia's defense, and then Jant 716 hopping in here. Better late than never.
Shout out to Coach Jans.
After Coach Sean, you go. We'll pass it to Jants.
All right, cool. For me, in my opinion, Kirby is very similar to Coach Saban. I think Kirby might be a little more aggressive in his approach up front. Kirby wants to take away what you do best, right? A lot of his principles are still based on the same things we used to do at Alabama. Kirby's a little more aggressive in stunting and a little more aggressive up front. I think our offense will make Kirby's defense defend the entire field. It won't be playing in the phone booth. It won't be 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I think Coach DeBoer is very effective with aggressive style type defenses. He's going to pin and pull these guys, counter these guys to death. I think it's going to be tough with Georgia because Georgia has very disciplined linebackers. Georgia's linebackers won't be fooled by a lot of that stuff, but at the same time, they'll have to defend the entire field. They'll have to defend a lot of counteraction, a lot of trap action, a lot of what I call the bread and butter route of Coach DeBoer's offense, which is post corner. A lot of post corner routes, man. They're going to push to the safety's toes, really, really push that post route hard, right? And then if he plays on your outside, you hit that corner. But post corner is a deadly route. I think it's one of the most deadly routes in college football, right? And if he doesn't bite, then you run the post and throw it. That's the great thing about Coach DeBoer's offense. It really picks on the safety a lot. Your safety better be about his business in this offense. I promise you. This is a fact. I'm an offensive guy. I watch these guys' offenses. Your defense better be very, very disciplined with Coach DeBoer. You may stop something once or twice, but he'll come back to it. He's very similar to Sark in that approach to where he will come back to a certain play, right? If it only picked up 3 or 4 yards, but he see your safety play this way or that way, Kirby's going to have to play the entire field. Kirby's going to really have to practice. What I like about it is it's not going to allow Kirby to dictate anything. Kirby's a dictator. He wants to be aggressive up front. I think Jake had a term that they call it. What do they call it, Jake?
Yeah, man. It's block destruction.
Block destruction, right? He wants to really, really dominate and take away what you do best, right? Our X factor last year was Jalen Milroe's legs, right? You can play the perfect defense. Jalen get on the edge. He's going to pick up 5-10 yards, which is going to force you to do something different at some point in time, right? So I really believe we're going to test Kirby's defense like no offense he's faced that early in the season, right? We both does Georgia, I'm not sure if Georgia has the week off before we play them. I know we got a bye week before we play Georgia.
I don't think they do.
Okay, so that's even a better thing for us. That means you won't have ample time to put into this offense. Just like RJ said earlier, that turnaround is very, very quick in college football. So
They have an off week.
Can I
they
ask?
do have an off week.
They
Oh,
do.
they do?
They play
Okay, I figured
Kentucky
that.
September 14th, and then September 28th is Bama.
Okay,
Boom. So that's a clear reason why. Clear reason why. But to answer your question, I think our offense will have some success against these guys, but I do not think Georgia will be as undisciplined playing this offense as most teams will be. It's going to be a good matchup, just like Ty said.
well, and real quick before you jump into it, I just want to say it's interesting to see because they roll between they roll a similar defense that Kane Womack will run.
Mhm.
So they run this like 3-4 to a 4-2-5. So like this 3-4 nickel back and forth, right? It's essentially again like Saban's defense. And what's interesting with them too is like they like to do the too high safety, right? They do a too high safety shell, but they roll based on pre-snap reads. They roll the coverage based on their pre-snap read.
Mhm.
And what's you just hit on, Coach Sean, is DeBoer does so much movement with the pre-snap that rolling it's going to be very difficult. They are
Very
not
difficult.
going to be able to dictate what they want to do defensively.
Right.
That's where I think that Alabama honestly wins.
Yeah.
Like in the end of this is why I feel so good about that game. It's going to be a good game, but man, it's going to be interesting to see who wins.
I don't want to be a Debbie Downer.
Yeah.
You gotta realize he's not bringing Michael Penix and those three, top 50 draft pick receivers with him. That was a big reason as to why the routes that you saw ran was so crazy because Roma Doomsday was that good.
Yeah.
Roma Doomsday was the ninth pick for a reason.
Mhm.
He was really that good. You don't have it at Alabama. You have good receivers. You don't have a Roma Doomsday. I don't even think you have. You got to poke. You got to poke over there. But the one thing that Alabama also does, you have a better offensive line, but your offensive line isn't as mobile.
Yeah.
Maybe Booker will be the only person that I see will fit that mold, but everybody else is kind of like ballers. Coach already turned them into 380-pound maulers, and it's going to take more than one offseason to get them down to where he wants them. So I think the offense, it will have its moments of being successful, but just remember, you guys don't have those two top 35 wide receivers to take the top off and do the different things the Roma Doomsday was doing, sitting down at the right depth, taking stuff over top, stemming all his routes at the perfect depth. You guys don't have that. So just understand that it's going to be an adjustment period for Alabama, I think, for this first year, because his offense is so complex and he does need things done absolutely at the correct way. So when you go back and you watch Washington play, they don't make any mistakes.
Yeah.
Shout out to Washington. They don't make any mistakes. They don't have the best defense, but they play discipline, they play gap sound, they don't make any mistakes. Nobody overruns the ball. Everybody is where they're supposed to be in a certain sense, especially on offense. And like I said, when you have a wide receiver that's top 10 guy, you got to understand how rare those kind of guys are in college football. Like nobody else had one of those. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe Ohio State and LSU. There's only two other guys that have those type of receivers. So when you have those, they take your offense to a different level.
That's one of the biggest things is, you saw Alabama's offense, and again, completely different coaching staff, but you saw the difference with Tua versus Jalen. And there was a difference. And if you don't think that there was a difference, there was a difference. And it's not going to show up against lesser competition. It's going to show up against the elevated. It's going to show up against a quality defense and a disciplined defense. And I do have some concerns. My concerns personally for Alabama is, how do you take that high-flying offense from Washington, which, listen, I think Michael Penix Jr. should have been the number one quarterback drafted this year, just based off, and I think outside of injury history, I think he was the best option. I think that, we do have a few left-handers, but I think that's, there's some keys there, but neither here nor there. But you brought it up with Odunze and Polk and those guys. Alabama has not had that wide receiver quality depth that that you got used to with all these all the top first round draft picks. And so I think Alabama has a lot to show there. with the what does that receiver room look like? Because Devontae Bond and all these guys transferring out, they weren't producing over there. I think Jalen Milroe is a guy that I love his work ethic, and he doesn't seem like he walks around with an air of I'm above everything. So I love that from him. So let's see what happens when he actually is going to this more spread it out, cerebral type of an offense. And Coach, you were talking being an offensive guy. I kind of want your take on that. And Jake, obviously I respect that out of you. So, I want to hear that too, because it's a different quarterback and it's a different scheme system. And to take such a big adjustment from Nick Saban to Kalen DeBoer, I think that is got to be something that has to be spoken about, because as much as we want to all think that, a new coach that you're excited about is going to come in and absolutely just knock it out of the park. I mean, what happens when that hard-ass Nick Saban voice that has been in the back of your head for 3-4 years, he ain't there? Do you relax? Do you step down a little bit? What does that look like?
Before I pass the Jans, let me answer that question real quick. And this is no Bama glasses. This is real. These guys will tell you they call me the pessimist, right? This is real. Everything RJ said was 1,000,000%. Everything Coop said was 1,000,000% correct. This is where I'll hit you with this. Last year, the offense that we ran with Tommy Rees was asking Jalen Milroe to drop back, go from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, check flat. He won't be asked to do that in this offense.
Hey, Tommy Rees is a bum. He is a bum. Understand that. I know that.
Yes. Go back. I would ask you guys, go back and watch the Kentucky game when they actually let him. Let me tell you something. Jalen Milroe,
I was at the game.
Jalen Milroe throw the post corner. That's one of his favorite routes. Kobe Prentice on post corner. I'll take that all day. That's the route that we're gonna live off of. Mm-hmm. You got to remember the routes these guys. It was 3rd and 11, and we was running high lows. Right? Like what? Like that's a scripted play call. Like you were going to run that if it was 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 11. This offense will not be that way. This offense will extenuate what Jalen Milroe does well. We didn't do that enough last year. You had this kid dropping back trying to read 1 to 2, 2 to. It's just that's not his strength. Now he had some success against it. The 2 games, his 2 best games actually. Go back and watch the LSU game. Go back and watch the Kentucky game. Lots of post corner routes, lots of post routes. All these different things that had him on the move, a lot of play action stuff. That's where Jalen is successful and can throw those things. I have no fear of Jalen throwing that intermediate or deep. It's when you're asking him to drop back 3-step, 5-step drop and make the read quick. If 1's not open, go to 2. If 2's not open, go to 3. That's when we get in trouble. Offensive line wise and quarterback wise. It was too much of that last year. Jalen would hold the ball too long. Caden would get beat. Somebody would get beat. Gave up 40-something sacks and still made it to the semifinals. We gave up more sacks than any team in the history of Alabama has given up. I think it was like 49, to be honest.
It was almost 50. Still
made it to the semifinals of the college football playoffs. This offense would not have Jalen holding the ball very long. This offense will, if you line up I dare you to line up in single high safety. Kobe Prentice is a dog on those routes. Dig routes. These guys will learn how to attack with Shep. They will learn to do something that we didn't do last year. We did not attack the top of the route. They run a dig, cut in, and it'd be just as lazy as you want to see. They was waiting for the quarterback to throw them open. That won't happen this year. You better learn how to attack the top of the route. Is the safety playing in front of you? Is the safety behind you? They will learn how to attack the top of the route. You saw a little bit of that in 8A. Jalen Milroe was 3 of 9 for like 100+ yards. The play that we actually boomed on was a simple mesh play, simple rub route coming across the formation. We do that in youth league, right? Get the DB caught up in the wash, hit him perfectly over his inside shoulder. Excuse me. This offense will extenuate what Jalen didn't have the opportunity to do last year. We did it a few times, had lots of success, but it's almost like Tommy was afraid, and maybe the blocking had something to do with that.
And
right? Maybe it's the fact that,
and the snaps,
And the snaps, right? Not a lot of pre-snap motion against Michigan. Michigan, if you watched, had great film study. We run a running back out in the flat. They don't even guard him. Don't worry about him. They're not going to throw it.
Oh, yeah.
But they get to go film your practices. So, I mean,
Also, Alabama's running game wasn't historically what we're used to seeing.
Yeah.
A lot of their rushing yards came from Jalen Milroe. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you got to also take that into account when you're talking about those sacks. You got to remember a lot of those sacks. So about 10 or 15 of them were him moving out of the pocket and scrambling and getting sacked. So I mean, when you have a mobile quarterback, it adds kind of variables into like the stuff that you think about. But the running game wasn't there either, which was a big reason why you saw what you saw with the offensive Tom Reese was trying to do. The offensive line, it took them a couple of games to get going. It took Proctor like 5 or 6 games to get going. Yeah. And then once you saw that, then all of a sudden, like you said, the Kentucky game, the LSU game, the game from the back end was when you saw stuff starting to mesh well and go and look better. So, like I said, it's really just kind of like when is Alabama going to mesh? Because now it's a completely different offense. You ask the offensive linemen to do completely different things from what they're used to doing. They have to change their body types, which isn't going to happen over one semester. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm not saying that they're not going to win 9 games. That's if you say that they're going to win under less than 9 games, then we should check you for scoliosis or something. But
luckily, and I want to give it to Coach Jay because he hasn't gotten an opportunity here. I do want to hit these 2 donations. Yeah.
I
don't know if you saw this, RJ. Proctor's already down like 20 pounds.
I saw
him. I told you.
At A-Day.
That's huge, right? Huge.
We seen him at A-Day. Me, myself, Coach Smoot. We seen him at A-Day. He's definitely not 380 anymore.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that he had lost weight. So I'm just telling you guys from now that I know that you're going to have to lose weight as an offensive lineman to work in that scheme. That's awesome for him, but you've got those other guys as well that need to buy in like he has, and dropping 20 pounds now all of a sudden on the fly this season, I can't play the way I did last year. I'm a sophomore. I got comfortable playing the way I had played. Now I got to switch it up again. You know what I'm saying? Another adjustment period for him. He'll be okay. He's going to be he's probably going to be your second best lineman, I think, behind Booker. But it's going to be an adjustment period. What do you want me to do? Now where's Miro going to sit? He used to sit 5, and now he's going to sit 3, or he's going to drop his entire sit. We don't know. So it's going to take an adjustment period for him to be able to play it that way, understand where he wants to sit, where he wants to put his hands placement, all this stuff. It's going to vary, and we'll see as the season goes on. But I think Alabama, you guys will be fine this year, man. You guys will be fine.
And luckily, Milroe now has a quarterback coach that can develop him as opposed to Bill O'Brien, who told him you're not a quarterback, and Tommy Reese, who and Coop, I know you say he's a bum. I don't disagree. I just think he was so in over his head, right? Like he was looking at Milroe being like, I don't know how to best develop you because I've never had a quarterback like you. But shout out to Cam Crimson with the 1999, not once, but twice. First off, saying much love, Ty Boomer Sooner, and then doubling down with another 1999 with the OU symbols going out there. Thank you very much, Cam. Longtime supporter of the channel, been around since, gosh, I'd say first 200, 300 subscribers. Cam's been here for the long haul. Coach Jay, talk to us about expectations with the changing offense with DeBoer, where you're excited about, and really talk about the running backs, because I think that's an area where DeBoer is absolutely going to be walking into an upgrade when you look at Justice Haynes, former 5-star, Richard Young, former 5-star, Daniel Hill, Kevin Riley, Jam Miller. Talk to us about that unit.
Well, I think one of the biggest, definitely one of the biggest things that I'm really excited about, but at the same time concerned about, and I think RJ kind of mentioned a little bit, was when is at some point is this offense, is this team going to garner, continuity from week 1, or is it going to take some time for this offensive line to gel, the receivers to really gel, the quarterback to gel, especially the quarterback to gel? Because I had to go back and I wrote an article on Michael Penix Jr. a little bit, and just some of the strengths that he was able to do. This offense commanded a field general, and I think that's one thing that I think a lot of people don't give Michael Penix a lot of credit, was that he was a field general, right? One of the things I kind of wrote down was that I thought was that he exhibited kind of elite field generalship, kind of excels in kind of dissecting those defensive alignments pre-snap. Just one of those, it's just one of those things that he literally commanded the root of that offense, right? Really kind of promoted the root of that team. That's one of some of the concerns And it's not because Jalen Miro doesn't have the ability to do it. It's because he wasn't allowed to be in that sort of position in the first place with Tyrese. Bill O'Brien literally came out of his mouth and said that as well. And so now you're going to go in a much more complex offensive system where you might have to be that field general. You're going to have to process. You're going to have to process a lot quicker. You're going to have to dissect defensive alignments and go through your progressions extremely quickly in order to kind of attack the root of the defense. So I'm very interested to see if Jalen Miro can do that. Can he be the command? A lot of people are saying that he can't really slide up, that he can't slide in the pocket, that his pocket maneuverability is going to be garbage. That is a complete and utter lie, right? If there's anything that we've seen from the spring game, from workouts, it was the fact that was one of the biggest things that I saw that was improved was his base quarterback mechanics. But in terms of just the complexity of this offense, this requires a quick diagnosis from the quarterback. That's the one thing that I'm very interested in seeing, and the one thing that I think, that this it didn't start off that well for Washington. I think people kind of forget about that. Is that it took some time for that core to kind of build up, with Pope being the backup. Jalen McMillan was the guy. Remember, he was the guy. And then you have Rome Odunze. It took a while. It took a little bit of time for all of that to really gel in together. And it wasn't until really beginning to midpoint of the season that, okay, that's when it really clicked. So now you're kind of going into a situation where you're going against more kind of physical defenses, faster, more athletic defenses. How is this offense really going to function in that particular level when you're going against the sort of quality of defense in the SEC, especially when you're going against Georgia in week 4, week 5, who Georgia doesn't really know too much about your offense, and you don't know really. And I think the advantage that Boer has, that he's faced a similar sort of a defensive scheme than with obviously going against Dan Lanning, but he's never ever gone against these. He's done it. He just did it against Michigan in the national championship game. We all, and that was more. I think that was more on Penix. That's just me. I think that was more on Penix than I would say more than the scheme, but. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see how this offense can function in that sort of way. Now, in terms of the running backs, I'm very excited to see what the running backs can do. The running backs are going to be extremely exciting. Yes, the run game didn't really pick up until last year. And again, a big reason why was because we simply didn't have those maulers in the interior until we, of course, Jaden Roberts. We had Jaden Roberts to pair up with Tyler Booker. Seth McLaughlin was literally being carried for the entirety of the season. I have no idea. We were screwed at that center sort of position. And I think going into this year, I think we're going to have, based off of our blocking schemes, where we're going to be running a lot of trap, a lot of pin and pull, a lot of counter base. I think that for the most part, knowing that this offensive line is going to be slimmer down, they're not going to be as big as they were last year. This is going to be an offensive line that requires a lot of movement. That's going to fit into a lot of the strengths of what these running backs can offer. Justice Haynes is kind of more of the elusive back. He's phenomenal vision, right? That's that type of running back. You have Daniel Hill and you have Daniel Hill, who's can be a downhill running back who also has those assets added to his disposal. Richard Young, obviously, for the most part, I'm a big fan of Richard Young, especially what he was able to do as well. This running back core, I think it's going to be a little bit more different compared to how it was last year. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see what this running back core can do. All of them obviously have their strengths. They have their different weaknesses, but I think that the strengths outweigh the weaknesses with this run blocking team that we're going to have. And honestly, everyone talks about how successful the passing game can be, but I think earlier on, don't be surprised if this run blocking scheme with these running backs becomes a lot more successful in the first half compared to the passing attack, when that needs, because obviously I think that continuity wise, and I think for Jalen Miro's development, that might not really carry over to hitting its full height until we get to around that midpoint of the season.
I really like Haynes. I think Haynes picks up where Jacobs left off, kind of like that Alabama pipeline of backs. You haven't really had that since those guys, and I think Justice Haynes, I think he's good enough to pick that up, because we were talking about him last year, Ty, when y'all got him, and we were talking about how we thought they were going to incorporate him in the offense, and I told him, man, for what I'm hearing, they really like that kid, and that's not common from Nick Saban to talk about a freshman. And sure enough, he's out there, he's getting reps. I really think he's going to have a special season. I really do.
Yeah, the running back room is insanely deep. They got a guy, RJ, I'm excited for you you probably know about him. If not, I'm excited for you to check him out. Daniel Hill out of Mississippi. He's 6'1", right? like 220 pounds.
Wow,
And in the
235, dude. It's a big-
is he
big
235? Okay.
Yeah,
In the All-American game, he won. It was interesting because I think there was this preconceived notion that he was just like some power back, right? But he got out there in the All-American game. He was running away from people. He was running through people. There was a play where they had him in near the goal line, and he took it, and you just watched the whole pile as he took them to the end zone. Apparently, he's been doing a really good job. Caleb Odom is another one. He's came in as a 5-star tight end, has since transitioned to wide receiver. He's going to be a 6'5", 220-pound wide receiver out there on the edge. That's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a good time, guys. It's going to be a really good time.
And hey,
Odom, is that the 5-star kid from last year?
Yeah, he's
They moved him to receiver?
Yeah, Coach Shepard won him at wide receiver.
Only at Alabama. Can't do that nowhere else. It's crazy. Nowhere else.
I'm about to bounce out, but I just want to kind of leave it with this one. Jay and I are about to do a show here in about 10 minutes. But I think the best part, I mean, the playoffs are what they are. That makes this absolute exciting this year. But I think with just question marks, because we don't know what this is going to look like for Alabama. We don't know what this is going to look like for OU and Texas coming in the SEC. We don't know. We're all going to have some fun with USC going to the Big Ten. So we'll just enjoy that together. So I think this year we got a lot, but at the same time, I'm really, really excited because you can have these battles in the SEC and you can have 2 and 3 lost teams that are going to have shots at being in the playoff. And then we'll get a chance to see what is your best out of the bless your heart All-State Conference, have to stand up against a 9-3 Tennessee. What is that going to look like? So we'll get a chance to see more of these things. Do I think that the playoff actually gives more teams an opportunity to win the national championship? Hell no. It's still going to be the usual suspects. But more people get to play for a piece of the pie, and that's what is going to bring so much excitement this year.
Mm-hmm.
Not the damn video game. Not the damn video game.
Now, Coop, before you get out of here, do you want to quickly just like rapid fire the big week OU had on the recruiting trail and how y'all are really starting to turn heads? I'd love to get your insight on that.
Yeah. So start off on Monday with 2026 quarterback Jalen Neal. So guy out of California. So again, California is not the mecca of college football. We got two of our last recruits came from California. So Trojan, I love you. I'm not going to pick fights with you here. I've fought with you other places, but this guy, he physically he looks like Jameis Winston back at Florida State. He is a big body guy, 6'3" and change, 220 pounds. He's going to be an absolute stud. You bring in also, I got to go backwards here. Wait for my brain to catch up with
Emmanuel Choice on
Emmanuel
Sunday.
Choice, wide receiver, 6'4". This is another guy that Emmett Jones was on this kid very, very early. I think he was his first offer. So Oklahoma, this right now has 4 receivers, still looking at potentially adding Cortez Mills, which, the crystal balls are starting to come in with him. Oklahoma's done a good job mixing these outside smaller slot guys, the inside smaller slot guys who are burners with some size. You got guys like Elijah Thomas and Marcus Harris out of California, and Marcus Harris, and these guys are kind of the tweeners, the Sterling Shepard, that 6'1", 6'2" guy. So the receivers pulling in have absolutely been, just freaks of nature. And then in-state product, CJ Nixon, another guy. Can you play defensive end? Can you play tight end? He is a 2-sport athlete. And I don't know, you guys, Alabama, you guys have been having some good years on the basketball court. Don't go look at Oklahoma basketball. There's nothing to see there. But, he's a guy who can play basketball and football. And, again, I think that we've all said this. For Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, anybody, if you want to win the national championship, you have to absolutely put a fence around your state. You got to own your state, and you cannot let the top-end talent head out of state. And so this staff has made it an absolute priority to keep Oklahoma kids in Oklahoma. And so, again, today I dropped an interview with a guy committing today, Darius Afalava out of Lehigh, Utah, down to Michigan State, Washington, Oklahoma, and somebody else. But I have a very, very good indication that, this is going to be another Bill Beanbo win. And then on top of that, we took a preferred walk-on, which is an absolute dude who would not have been a walk-on if we already didn't have a center in the fold. And, you typically don't give scholarships to more than one center per year. But this kid is best friends and teammates with Mr. Fasusi, and that is a 5-star O lineman. And so these things are starting to roll in. Also best friends with Lamont Rogers from right up north of us. And so there is an absolute slew, and I've seen what Alabama's doing, and I promise you this: Alabama and Oklahoma are putting in some work right now, and they're bringing in quality guys. And I will color myself absolutely surprised because the Bama staff, Kalen DeBoer, and all those guys have absolutely, outkicked my expectations on what was going to happen year one. And so Oklahoma, still same thing. Ended the interview yesterday, talked to Darius, and I said, hey, man, how big was conference when it was there? And you guys will love this because he said, well, I didn't have Oklahoma as one of my top teams because they checked every single box except for conference. He said, when I learned that they were going to the SEC, I kicked LSU out and I put Oklahoma in. And so I think we get good news today. I think he's going to be announcing on 247. So if you guys want to pull up and check that out, if it says 5:30, the announcement's coming 30 minutes later. They're going to do a bunch of other stuff and talk about Colorado for some reason for 35 minutes before we get to what people came to see. So, but yeah, it's going well. This is a class that Oklahoma's running into problems where how do you make the numbers work? And the processing of quality guys is about to start happening. So Oklahoma fans, I've been trying to spread this message. You're not getting dudes leaving out for, Texas State and Valdosta State, anymore when they transfer out. These are guys that are going to be going to major universities and guys that you don't want to see leave the team. But the talent that's getting stacked is absolutely undeniable.
Love it, man. And I've been very excited to see what Oklahoma's done on the recruiting trail. It's one of the reasons why I've remained steadfast that the SEC made a brilliant move bringing in Texas and Oklahoma because they're both top 10 recruiting teams perennially under their new coaching staffs. And Coop, before you get out of here, the one thing I did want to say is right before you hopped in, we were talking about some of the differentiating factors within the SEC, and you were in the comments. But right before you commented, I said something that you were alluding to, and it was the fact of if you're in the SEC and you bring in the number 12 recruiting class in the nation, you're sitting there patting yourself on the back thinking, hey, I'm top 15. I can make a push for a college football playoff appearance, right? Like I've recruited very well. And then you look at the in-conference recruiting rankings, and you're number 7 in your own conference in recruiting. That's what I think you've been alluding to in that competitive depth, right? It's not just the first team. A lot of these Power 5 schools have a great first team. What does your second team look like? What does your third team look like? That is what really separates and why you have to have top 10 recruiting classes. If you really just want to stake your claim in the SEC, I feel like you got to remain in the top 10 in recruiting, right? It's just so competitive.
100%. And then you saw that list. I think you guys covered it up, but the blue chip percentage, and Oklahoma was, I think, number 6 in that list. That number's going up.
Oh yeah, they're at 74% right now.
Yeah, Texas has always won the summer. They just don't do much winning in the fall. And the Texas back stigma. I'm just say this is Texas is absolutely they've got some issues up front, and we all talked about to be a good defense and be a good offense, you got to be good up in the middle on both sides. Your quarterback, running back, and center, those guys need to be studs. Your guards need to be studs. On the defensive side, your defensive tackles, your linebackers, your safeties, those guys have got to be studs. That's where I worry about Texas this year, and that's where I think that Oklahoma has actual strength on the defensive side is when you add a Dominic Williams, you have Danny Stutzman coming back. You have Billy Bowman coming back. Billy Bowman, he was returning every single time that he got a ball sent his way. It was a pick 6. So there's going to be nobody is used to Oklahoma being mentioned with defense because it's been since we had a little glimmer in 2020, but it's been since 2008 when it was Tebow versus Bradford. Since Oklahoma has actually put something that is respectable defense out there. And it can't stop with a top 15 class. It's got to be a top 5. You got to keep on pressing. This year's going to be a little tougher because even though I love Kevin Sperry, we don't have that top end, top 10, top 15, recruit in the class at quarterback. And that is really what will push you over. But watch in the next, between here and I'll throw my grandma's birthday is August 8th. So watch between here and August 8th, because fireworks are going to start landing up, and OU is going to be up towards the top 2 or 3, maybe top 5.
Well, Coop, and the other thing to that is Zach Alley, the defensive coordinator that they bring in. Obviously, he's that dude. Like, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Oklahoma, for me, I have always felt like from back in the day, they were should have been, always been a defensive team. Zach Alley's that dude. He comes back in with the same scheme that Brent Venables runs, and Brent trusts him, gives him the reins, and Zach's aggressive, and he does a very good job of hiding what he's about to do. And so it's going to be, from Oklahoma's standpoint, it's going to be fun to watch the way you have this energy in this defensive coordinator. Very similar. I'm going to be honest. Like that's why I feel good giving these comparisons of Oklahoma to Alabama and the type of coaches that they do have, because you're seeing this in a very similar way of like their mindset and the type of aggression and energy they bring to the table. Right now, the recruiting classes are a little different right now, but that's okay. Hey, the recruiting is still solid for Oklahoma, and I think they will continue to be, especially with the message that they preach there. So,
and I'll just say this last piece here is, Oklahoma fans were very excited to see Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State. I think that was a can we help you find a job situation. So OU's offensive line is going to take them where they can go this year, and that's kind of a duh statement, but it's not the interior. Branson Hickman from SMU comes in, and he was a freshman All-American at center. You've got Fabichi Wewu at the right guard. I will just say this: it's going to be the offensive tackles. If Oklahoma can push towards 10 wins this year, it's going to be because the offensive line came together. And I feel kind of good because I know that Alabama made a pretty big run at Bill Bedenbaugh. And so I'll just say that is he knows what to do. He's not everyone's particular brand of vodka, but the guy puts dudes in the NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the most elite coaches in the nation, regardless of position. Coop, thank you for hopping on here with us. Where are you going? That way the people can kind of understand where they need to go subscribe after we get done here.
Yeah, check us out. So Jay and I run Unfair Sports, Unfair Sports Sooner or Later podcast, kind of 2 different brands. And so we hop on there. Jay is doing a lot of great stuff. I got a couple of things coming down the pike, but we love working with all of you guys because I think that it's rising tide, floats all ships. And with great content creators, we've had some turmoil in the Oklahoma content creation circle here recently, and I have now self-appointed myself as the ambassador of peace, because we're all guys that just are passionate about 2 things. Football and in relationship with some of these athletes, because that's why I do. I love getting a chance to, I talked to Darius Offalava, I asked him straight up, and he said, I've never done any of these interviews before. And I was like, well, why the hell did you pick me? But that was awesome, because at the end, I just say, man, if you ever need something, if you want to bounce something off me, if you just need to cuss at somebody, man, just shoot it my way. I was a college athlete. And I know that's hard. And especially nowadays when every single dude that has an opinion about you can drop on Twitter or your Instagram. Yep. And so sometimes, man, it's just tough.
Yeah, 100%. Y'all do a great job. That's why whenever you hit me up and you were like, hey, got room for one more? I was like, well, absolutely. Come on in. The water's fine.
And we got lots of great guys. I see Sharp on here. Davidson was on here earlier. And I tell you what, it's this university and the real ones, they're really, really excited for this year. And now I need our fans to get a little bit more SEC ready, when it comes time to tailgating. So when you guys come to Norman, it looks a little bit better. But I think the university is actually really kind of seeing the light with that stuff. So, man, if you
that's
guys,
the only area I'm worried about y'all for in the SEC is the tailgating. That's a concern.
That's it. A lot of people want to bitch on the computers from home and not show up to the game. We sell out everything, and not going to lie, we sell out everything. But one of the coolest things about the SEC is I think BYU will be the largest stadium in the Big 12 right now, and I think it's like 60K.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
you go from playing in front of 25, 35, 40K and, perceived notions that of certain stadiums being legit to everybody being 85, 90,000, and more.
110 or like 100 plus in Bryant Denny. And,
exactly.
It messes with you, bro. It's crazy. It's completely different. I promise you.
Trust me, it is absolutely different. Now, we show up 85 deep for our spring game, so these fans will show up to our game. So, but yeah, it's good, man. If you guys get a chance, go check it out. I try to be pretty even keel and just point out what I can back up with factual information instead of fanboyism. But I'm just trying to keep up with you guys because the breakdown, Jake and I, Jake's my spirit animal. I love him. But just even you as a coach, I'm glad to meet you guys because anytime that you guys want to actually talk ball, I'm always want to learn more from a strategic standpoint.
Yeah, but these are the guys to teach you,
Love it,
man.
man.
I learned so much from Jake, Jantz, from RJ, from Coach Sean. Right, that's one of the beauties about doing these Mondays and Friday live streams. Is it's just a learning experience for all parties involved. So thank you so much for hopping on here, getting us rolling on the recruiting front because we have a lot of recruiting news to talk about. Not only has Oklahoma been having a great time, ladies and gentlemen, it's decision day for 5-star cornerback Dejon Lee. Has received a lot of crystal ball predictions for Alabama. Hopefully that comes to fruition. Jantz, I'm going to start with you. How do you feel like Alabama recruiting right now is going? And they're not the only team recruiting at a high level. In fact, Ohio State just got a big win, another big win, right? The thorn in the side of everybody this year is the Buckeyes for Trajan Odom. 6'5", 285 defensive lineman from North Carolina chose the Buckeyes over USC, Oregon, and Georgia, and they keep stacking them. But talk to me about Alabama recruiting right now, Jantz, and your expectations going forward.
I think Alabama has kind of met my expectations. I always keep telling the story, man. But I did this live, said it live. I kept trying to tell Bama fans, man, just be patient. Everything will play itself out. There's no need to worry. I said this after when Nick Saban retired because I was confident of the recruiting staff that Kalen DeBoer brought in. And if anything, again, even if he didn't really know the South, I think players, if you look at his track record, if you look at the fact that he literally that he can bring in an entire staff that can develop players. But obviously, I was excited with Courtney Morgan. I know a lot of people didn't know who Courtney Morgan was. I was very excited when he kind of came in because I'm like, okay, yeah, you got a dog. You got kind of this new aged recruiter that we just haven't, that Alabama hasn't seen before. We've leaned too much on Saban and the staff to recruit. We never really, we never really rely on this player of development sort of person of a Courtney Morgan who literally behind the scenes, it's like the Joker behind the scenes, right? You know what I'm saying? Like he's always doing something that you just can't, you just weren't really expecting. So literally one of the first tweets he made was cold summer. And people was like, what that cold emoji? Like, what does that mean? I knew what that meant. I knew what that meant right away when he said that emoji. The dude, he was going to come in here. He was going to work. And he has attacked he's attacked all of the regions in the South. He has gained a lot of success. He's gained a lot of success all over the country. He's formed him and his staff has formed phenomenal relationship with the coaches and the parents. Matter of fact, one of the things that I loved about him was one of the top priorities he did focus on was the coaches. He went right to Alabama and he went right to the top coaches, the Hoovers, the Thompsons of the world, and he formed those relationships. He made sure to keep a line intact, right, in order for you to, in order for him for Alabama to gain access to these players. So I loved it. I absolutely love the job that Alabama and this recruiting staff has done so far. This is not like how it was with Saban and the staff before. It is an all-around effort. Everyone is getting involved, not just certain individuals that's kind of carrying the recruiting trademark. But no, I mean, as far as regarding Dijon Lee, I'm confident that we can land him. If he doesn't want to come to us, we've done everything we can, right? I think there's not that much you can really ask for. He had a hell of a recruiting weekend over here. A lot of those kids that came over here really, really enjoyed the visit. They respected it. Hell, we even had a live commitment live on air with Ryan Williams kind of coming there, be one of the first ones to congratulate him. You did everything in your power to recruit him, right? Now it's up to the kid if he wants to come here or not. If he doesn't want to come here, then that's fine. But I think, and this is what a lot of schools they just don't do, is that sometimes they don't really they don't go in 100% sometimes on a kid. Like sometimes, it may seem like that at first, and then all of a sudden it's like, you know what? We'll focus on something else. We're not going to make you the top priority. Hell, we even did that, right? We even did that with Peter Woods, right? How we didn't go all in with Peter Woods, right? And that's how Clemson was able to kind of sneak in and just go for the kill. You know what I'm saying? So that's something that we've done so far with a lot of the kids that we have targeted. We have made sure to keep on it, right? We have not stepped off of the gas pedal. We have continued to actually press on. And that's one of the things that I love about this coaching staff, and I love about overall this. I can't really say a coaching staff. This entire, honestly, recruiting, everything. it's not just from the coaching staff. It's everybody that's getting involved on it that we have continued to just press on the gas or step on the gas pedal. And so I'm very excited. I'm very excited for this for his decision. Again, if he hopefully can come here to Bama, I'm pretty confident that he will. Again, everyone is kind of crystal ball to us. But again, if he doesn't want to come here, it's all I can pretty much. I'm still proud that the fact that we have gone all in and we have not. And I think that for a lot of these kids, they will respect. And even hell, just because you're committed, we got a long way to December. We've seen kids still committed, and we've gone all in the process for these potential kids. So that's one of the things that I love about this recruiting staff. It's fresh, it's fresh, it's diverse, it's a lot younger compared to what we had in the past, and this staff is a lot more relatable than some of our past recruiting staff. I think that's the most important part, and so I'm excited. I'm excited overall to see what kind of happens today.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And then there's Sharma, who's committing. That's going to be a battle between Bama, Texas. I think Oregon's in there as well. I really like his game. I think he's an underrated player, right? I mean, at one time, not too long ago, he was a 3-star. And I haven't checked the updated rankings because I just remember watching him and being like, that's not a 3-star. That's not a 3-star. So excited to see where he goes, whether that's Alabama, Texas. Someone's going to get a hell of a player there. Fan base needs to be excited for that commitment wherever he ends up. But gentlemen, it's not just relegated to Lee, right? Like Lee is a decision today, but then we have Jermaine Mims hopping in the chat, and everybody who is in here, everybody who is chatting it up. Thank you all for being in here. We have 573 viewers right now, so it's hard for us to get to every comment, right? But we do absolutely appreciate every single person for being in here, for chatting, for watching, for just kicking it with us, right? For just hanging out. That means the world to us. But Jermaine comes in here and says 4-star tight end Caleb Edwards just been crystal balled to Bama. Then he backs it up saying Sharma is crystal balled to Texas, but I feel it will go to signing day. Oh, I have no doubt, right? And I think that's an argument we can make for a lot of prospects, but Sharma is absolutely one of those where it's like you don't keep pushing until pen hits paper, and you hope you can get a flip if he is to go to Texas and you're Alabama. Jimmy says, I see just over 100. Yeah, we're on Twitter as well. Coach Carl Taylor says Ryan Williams signing for KD is equal to Julio signing for Saban. Both were number 1 in Alabama and were wide receivers. It's kind of interesting, the parallels between that, right? And then when we talk about what they have meant for the recruiting class as a whole, where, guys, I can't remember a visit here recently where you look and Ryan Williams isn't in the picture, isn't in the background being like, hey, come. He is like Palpatine to Vader for every single one of these where he's in the ear being like, roll with the tide. Yes, come on. And it's awesome to see, right? Absolutely awesome to see. But speaking of wide receivers, Bama's making it real interesting on the wide receiver front as well.
I'm here.
Caleb Cunningham, 5-star wide receiver. Lockett, 5-star wide receiver. Derek Meadows is going to be pushing for 5-star status. You already have Lutzier Brooks. And this is going to be an incredible wide receiver class. King Cali says better recruiter Ryan Williams or Key Russ. That's a tough one. I'm going to go Ryan Williams, King Cali, for one reason and one reason only. He already is wearing the crimson jersey, right? Like he's already on campus, right? Like he's going to be playing this year. But that's a tough one because Key Russ has been fantastic going after a Ty Haywood, 5-star offensive tackle. I believe On3 has him as the number 8 player in the nation, right here in Denton, Texas. A hop, skip, and a jump from where I currently sit. He's right down the road. Key Russ has done an incredible job, even talking to Lockett, DeCorey, and Moore, Caleb Cunningham, Meadows, just to name a few. The only reason why I go Williams is because he's on campus, right? So every kid that's come in has seen Ryan Williams, it seems like. You know what I mean? That's the differentiating factor for me here. And the Elite 11 speech. RJ, have you gotten to check out Keelan Russell, quarterback for Duncanville?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
See, that's a huge win for Alabama. Just won Elite 11 MVP. Yeah. Just won MVP of the 5-star camp for Rivals. 29-1 as a starter for Duncanville. Had a 72% completion percentage in Texas 6A high school football. Give us your thoughts on Keelan Russell.
I was about to say, I think he played like 6A or 7A in Texas. Like when you get recruits that play in those levels of football, against that type of talent, it's verified, right? Like those are the type of dudes that people look at and like, okay, there's gonna be something. When I looked at Keelan Russell's film, I was like, okay, I think this kid might, end up being, a good recruit. And this is last year because I remember someone last year talking about him for another school. And then one of the kids that I was going with, we were on the trail, and Russell was at one of the camps, and I was like, okay, you're the kid that I was just looking at. You're the kid that we was looking at on the film, and they were talking about this and that. Man, he's a really cool kid. But I sat back and watched his film, and then I got to watch him live. He was throwing at this camp. It's like, shit. Okay, he's gonna be a guy. Is that the kid that we was talking? I was like, yeah, man, that's him. And I said they need to upgrade that kid. I think he's better than what they got him rated. If you want my complete honest opinion, I think he's better than what they got him rated. But you see the recruiting rank has changed day to day. So we'll see where he ends up overall. But that was a huge win for Alabama. And I think that's huge for them going forward in the DeBoer era for him to get a guy here. And I'm not talking about one of his transfer guys. I'm talking about a guy that he wants to develop. That's key on every program. You got to have a quarterback that you want to develop and that you need to stamp your program. And even though Alabama's had other quarterbacks, he hasn't have his own. So if he gets Russell in here and he can stamp him and turn him into what I think he can be, then that's gonna be huge down the road for Alabama.
Coach Sean, talk to me about Alabama recruiting as a whole right now. Big day for Alabama fans as there is a commit on deck who we are all hoping commits to Alabama and Dejon Lee. Ennis Sharma, though Texas, man, they're going to make that real difficult. But I do agree that's one that goes down to the wire. But wherever he goes, hell of a player, no doubt about it. But talk to us about Alabama recruiting.
Man, I think it's extremely hot right now. I love what the staff is doing. I spoke about this before. We get Sabanized because we've been under that Saban cloak so long and how Coach Saban done things.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, the other coaches recruited positions, but it was always Coach Saban. Coach Saban got that discount with every high school coach. When that guy came to your school, I talk about how it's an event. I mean, I know several schools personally here in the state. When Coach Saban come, the whole damn school let out like recess, and they it's crazy, right? So we didn't really have to come with that huge NIL number because it was Coach Saban. The high school coaches all would push the kids. You need to go to Bama. You need to go to Bama. So how would this staff, counteract that? How would this staff get over the Saban discount, right? He's gone. Nobody really knows you. They know some of your staff. Nobody has a relationship with you. How are you going to counteract that, right? What does Coach DeBoer do? The first 2 or 3 weeks he's here, he have over 200 recruits on campus. Coach Saban never did that. It was never that many recruits on campus at one time. because he talked about how he couldn't talk to all of them, so he never had that many at one time. This guy flooded it. And I get now what that was about. That was so the word of mouth could start. Let's get everybody on campus, let them see how we do it, playing the music, having coaches on their cell phones, personally talking to recruits. What's up, such and such? How you doing? Posting it. That was all to show the world this is how it's going to be here now, right? When me, Jake, I'm sure RJ and Coach Jans, we was all recruited. It was different, man. It was different. It was very slow. It was a slow process. Wasn't a lot of bells and whistles for real. Now recruiting you need a full-time department to recruit kids now.
Yeah.
Graphics, personnel department, just a full-blown, entire process of recruiting. I've seen kids walking through tunnels and putting them on stages and just all type of stuff. And I know just from coaching high school football now, in the past, recruiting is a whole entity, right? Mm-hmm. You just can't depend on just the staff and the head coach. You got to have a gang of recruiting personnel, hostesses, other kind of things going on, tours, chaperone. It's crazy, right? So when you see the Bama staff and to come in behind that guy, behind the GOAT, and see what Bama, regardless of who we get, who we don't get, to see the interest in Alabama football right now, go back 4 or 5 months ago when everybody doubted, when everybody was like, bro, what are we going to do? I think it was just that Sabanism that everybody had, right? So to see what they're doing, you got to give total props to Coach DeBoer, for Courtney Morgan, the general manager, all the compliance officers, all the staff, the position coaches, everybody. They have kept the standard at Alabama fresh on the recruit's mind. And at this point, that's all you can ask for.
100%. Anthony saying time. Not sure if you guys gave your thoughts on my last comment from before about Jabari Antoine. Is he the kid from New Iberia, the cornerback, top 75 in the nation per the 24/7 Sports Composite, just decommitted from LSU? Yeah. Yep. It's the same one, Anthony, backing it up right here. Ben Flipla. I haven't heard much about him in terms of where he'll go. Mm-hmm. I'd love for Bama to get him in for a visit. Super, super, super talented kid. Played quarterback for his high school, played cornerback for his high school. I mean, he is one of those guys where it's like, hey, if he's willing to commit, you absolutely take that commitment. Super talented. Very interested to see where he goes, but I don't have much in terms of like what I have necessarily heard. If Miami can get him, though, I know you're a Miami fan, Anthony. That'd be a huge win for the Canes, right? I mean, that's the type of kid where I know LSU, right? Like LSU always recruits well, but I know and it's recruiting. You're gonna have decommitments, but I know that's a decommitment where you're just like, darn, that sucks. Right. I mean, that kid right there is going to be a really fun prospect to keep up with. Really fun. I mean, I always think it's so cool, guys, especially for like a cornerback where you play quarterback as well. And I don't know if he did his all the way through his junior year, but I remember reading something about like his sophomore year, whenever I was on his 24/7 Sports profile, whenever he had decommitted from LSU and I was sitting there watching his stuff, went over to his huddle, was watching all the stuff he had over there. I was just thinking to myself, like, man, it's not the end of the world for LSU fans, but at the same time, I bet that's one where you'd rather hold on to that commitment than lose the commitment. Jake, talk to me about Bama recruiting right now.
I mean, geez, everybody has hit it really well, but when you look at what they're doing, it's quite interesting. It's exciting. I think it exceeds expectations for a lot of fans. I'm going to be honest. After watching DeBoer for so long, I felt good about what he could do based on who he is as a person, right? Like, in not just DeBoer, but this entire staff. And I think that's the key to look at is you look at the sincerity, and I say this a lot, but the sincerity and the genuine good people that they are, right? They're humble, they're down to earth, they're easy for the recruits to talk to. At the same time, they really communicate well, lay out a plan of the way it looks for their future at Alabama, for what they can do for each recruit. For if you come in and put in the work, this is what we can deliver for you. I think that is a great way of of telling those kids, of saying, there's an expectation here. You come here to be the best, to compete against the best, and to win championships. So you need to have a championship mindset. That means you don't back away from competition. That means you want to play with all the guys who are going to elevate your game, right? Because the more you elevate your game, the better shot it is you have if your goal is to get to the league, right? And I'd imagine most of those guys' goal is, if not all of them, is to get to the league, right? So why not go to Alabama? On top of that, from just the coaching staff, then you jump over to like the general manager and Courtney Morgan. You jump over to Jatavius Sanders, Aaron Hodges, Tony Jones. You look at these guys in the back, Jarrett McKellen. You look at these guys in the background who don't get as much necessarily notoriety, but those guys do a lot of Clinton Dix. Like all those dudes do. They are the ones who put in a lot of time, right? And they're constantly staying in communication. They're the ones building initial relationships, maybe with the players, with the parents, and showing like, hey, this is why you come here. I think they do a really good job of being themselves and keeping the standard, what the standard is at Alabama. And I think that's coming across. We're seeing that with recruiting. A lot of people are going to come up with different theories. Some people are going to say it's money based. Well, I can tell you it's not, because Courtney Morgan is very much about the fact that they have a set number for each freshman coming in, right? They don't go and they don't change who they are. They don't compromise themselves or their integrity to get a kid. Okay. Like that's how they are. They stay true to who they are, their beliefs and their morals and values. I think that's a big deal. I think that sits well with parents. I think that sits well with recruits who value that as a man, because in the end of the day, football will end, as I have said, but everything you take away from the game, right, is almost priceless, as long as you take away the right things and the right mental attitude in the mentality of a champion. One of the things I brought up Keelan Russ before. Keelan Russell has the mentality of a champion. He is a winner in his mind. He is a winner on the field, and it demonstrates in every aspect of life. That level of confidence is not cockiness. It's not arrogance. It is just this straight confidence, right, that allows you to flow that energy and push that energy out into these other guys who feel that and they want to attach themselves, right? We all know people or have been maybe that guy at one point in our life where we have demonstrated this type of confidence and people want to join that, right? Or we've wanted to join that with others. I know I had coaches like that, and that was a big deal. You can feel that aura. You want to be a part of that. So you're looking at guys like Dijon Lee, who I feel like is a lock. I really do. You look at what his grandfather had to say about Alabama, how he feels about the staff, how long they've been recruiting him, right? If you didn't have a chance to listen to, again, Dawson Merritt, who just committed, and listen to his interview, again, Tide 100.9, they did an awesome job in their interview with Dawson. And you could really hear Dawson's maturity in his thought process and the way he's going about this. And I feel like a lot of the kids are doing the same, right? And that's the type of guys, as that mentality, they come together and say, we want the best guys, and we are going to make sure those guys know, like, this is a true brotherhood. This isn't just all talk. A lot of the times through the recruiting process, you have to be careful of hearing all the talk, because there's so many lights and cameras and shiny things. You can distract your mind and just say, oh, this feels awesome. They want me. Whenever you feel wanted by something, it's easy to fall into the trap of saying, oh, since that or this or they or she or he wants me, right? Then this is where I need to be. But you need to step back when you have these options, take a moment and think about it. And I think all these kids are doing that, and they're doing a good job, and their parents are guiding them, and the people who care about them are guiding them in the right path. When you have guys like Keelan Russell, you have guys like Ryan Williams, you have guys like Luke Metz, even behind the scenes, Mike Carroll. If we don't think Mike Carroll's out there recruiting, he's doing the same thing, right? If you don't think a guy like Mal Waldrop is doing that, right? He's doing Jackson Lloyd. Like, these guys are all doing that. the exact same way, and you look at their personalities and who they are and what they bring in, it starts to make sense of why you're getting who you're getting, because the coaches can do so much. The personnel staff, they can do so much, but the recruiting really comes down to is the players, right? Because if you walk on campus and you feel like family, you feel comfortable to be you will excel in your game. But if you go in there and you're nervous and you're not sure how to act, it's a weird feeling. You want to be part of the in crowd, but you're not sure if you are yet, right? That you become hesitant, and then in turn it impacts your game. So these guys are doing a really good job of, when kids come on campus, that the players are saying, man, like, this is a family. Like, family is number one. And that's part of one of DeBoer's maxims, right? One of his key pillars to success is family number one. Okay. And the players have bought into that. And it's going to be interesting. Like, honestly, you look at Washington in their first 2 seasons, how did they take a team that was 4-8 and quickly change them over to a winning team the next season, right? I think they went 11 or 10-2 or 11-2. I can't remember what it was, but they only lose a few games, right? Two games, I believe. And then you go to 2023 where they go to the national championship, because these players had all bought in. Even the first 4 games at Washington, both 2022 and 2023, Washington's averaging almost 40 points a game. Granted, okay, it's a Pac-12, but again, I've said this so many times, like the talent translates to who they're playing against, right? So that talent at Alabama now translates to who they're playing against in the SEC. If we are foolish to think that DeBoer and company will not do the exact same thing that he did at Washington, because the talent translates, right? If he's coaching for and forgive me, I forget the name, but in South Dakota, do you guys remember Sioux Falls? Yeah, Sioux Falls. Okay. With Sioux Falls, and why he wins 3 national championships, he loses 1 in his very first year, but he gets there. So he goes to 4, but he wins 3. Why does he do that? And how is he able to do it? And to say, oh, well, he can't do that in the next level. Well, he's proved that wrong time and time again, right? He's proved that wrong. He just took a Washington team to national championship who hadn't been there since what, 91? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's you have to sit there and be like, wow, this guy's for real. And as long as the team buys in and it's player led with a family first feel, a true brotherhood, which is what they have, and not just the brotherhood as a whole team, but also a brotherhood in the units, right? The DB unit, the linebacker unit, the running back unit, the quarterback room, the offensive line, defensive line. And you are seeing that in what these guys are saying. Go listen to all their interviews. How could you not sit there and be like, wow, like, this is for real? And these players that are coming, they know that, they feel it, and that's why they're making that decision. That's why I feel good about Ty Haywood. I feel good about Dejon Lee. Josiah Sharma's an interesting one because he is very quiet. There has not been, I know everyone wants to crystal ball him to Texas, but he has not spoken a whole lot. It's hard to get a read on Josiah Sharma in which direction, but I do that every time. DeBoer at Washington was on him big time. I think they were one of his first offers. Again, they do a very good job of evaluating talent. So when we talk about guys they've maybe grabbed who are 3 stars, that's not even something I would be worried about because of how well they evaluate talent. So then you look at Caleb Cunningham, Derek Meadows, right? Caleb Cunningham, I feel really good about. Derek Meadows will be an interesting battle because Notre Dame is pushing hard on that, right? Travis Smith Jr., we've talked about him. It's kind of like which direction are we going to go with him? Is he more of a Georgia lean? Some have said even Tennessee, right? Alabama's there in the mix. Khalil Lockett, right? I think that's a Texas-Alabama battle. And I think that fault comes down to like how hard maybe Key Russ pushes and gets after him. I think the coaching staff did a great job with him coming. And then, we just got a crystal ball with Caleb Edwards, the tight end out of El Dorado Hills, California, 6'6", 240. And I'm going to tell you what, he was crystal ball by Brett Greenberg, and there's another one, I forget who it was, but by 247. And these guys have kind of like a 90% success rate. I think so we should feel pretty good about Caleb Edwards. But again, he's the model of exactly what DeBoer is looking for from a tight end aspect, right? Because he plays either attached to line or he flexes out. And he has a massive, great athleticism. He plays basketball in the offseason. He's a good basketball player. Mm-hmm. Like these guys are versatile, multi-sport athletes. And you just look at what they continue to go after. Dijon Lee is an interesting one, right? Because you watch him, and then you look at Chuck McDonald's, who's a part of this class. And I'm going to be releasing a video regarding Dijon Lee. We'll see what happens later today. So I might wait just to see, if that we got 100% commitment. But I'll talk about some of his skill set. But Dijon Lee, I think, based on watching as much film as I've watched on him, just being a safety myself back in the day, and a defensive back, like that's obviously the position group I tend to attach to, that and defensive ends and edges, because that was my dream position. If I was 6'5", like 250, that's what I would have done, but not the case. But you look at Dijon Lee, and man, just he could play anywhere on the field. The Bama Standard, Ty Yearround, I think that evening they talked about Dijon Lee, right? And Coach Sean, we brought this up with Chris James, bringing up Dijon Lee's versatility. He could play just about anywhere on the field. His size and frame and his coverage skills are very, very impressive, right?
Well, also, it's his football
smooth
IQ. Like, yeah, he's got all the athletic ability that you'd want. But time after time, he's completely in phase on his guy, and he's just watching the quarterback because he's like, "No, I got you. Yep. So what are you gonna do?" And he'll see that there might be a dragger underneath, and the way he can flip his hips from being in phase to then attacking downhill quick, it's real. Like, he is so athletic. He ticks all the boxes there, but to me, what was just screaming is like, oh, you have all that ability and your football IQ is through the roof. Yeah. Whoever gets Dijon Lee is going to be getting a monster.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at him too. I mean, he drops his weight, which you need to do when you go to flip your hips. He drops his weight down into that 45-degree knee bend, drops his base, right, and flips real quickly, and then opens up with a very long, powerful stride. He covers a lot of ground. So you have to ask yourself, does he project down the line to a safety? Because if you also watch his tackling ability, he's a strong tackler.
Treats everything like a nail.
He does. He drives through his tackle. He has a really good tackle. I mean, and then, like I said earlier with Chuck McDonald's commitment from the cornerback standpoint, Chuck is very similar. Chuck has a really good feel for the field and getting into these passing lanes. But on top of that, if need be, you watch, I mean, there was just a video on Twitter, and I think he's covering Dalen McClutchin. Did you guys see that? Yeah. I mean, and he does a great job. I mean, that's an elite wide receiver at the same level, and he covers him. He does a great job doing one-on-one. I'm going to tell you what, Coach Sean, you'd be able to speak to this coaching it, but 7-on-7s from a defensive back standpoint, you want to see a defensive back and their ability and their coverage ability, go watch 7-on-7s.
Facts. Yeah, 7-on-7 is where I like the 7-on-7 successful receivers to me and DBs are always the guys I can really tell who can cover, and it lets you know who understands scheme, who understands how to cover, all the dirty tricks when stepping on the DB's toes and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying, Jake? All the tricks we teach those kids to do to the defensive backs. Chicken wings with the defensive backs they do.
Push them down the hip.
Push them down here. Yes. All the tricks we teach them. 7-on-7 really exploit that. And it's a lot of good kids because it lets them understand the one-on-one aspect of it. And anytime you can have those wins, those fundamental wins in 7-on-7, for me, that translates really, really well to college football. Devontae Smith, if you guys remember, Devontae coming out was like a 3-star from a small town in Louisiana called Amite, Louisiana. Yeah. And they went down to Miami in that Paradise camp in Miami. That 305 Paradise. Him, Jerry Judy was at the same camp. Devontae showed his, you know what? He was a 7-on-7 kid. He had dominated on 7-on-7, but he was small. Everybody was like, he little. When he went to that Miami camp, and the best corners that year could not cover him. Him and Jared Judy was the two best receivers there. They dominated. I mean, those guys coming out of their break was ridiculous, bro. All the finer nuances they was taught in 7-on-7, they was putting on full display in those camps. Bunch of fans, all the coaches was out there watching. So 7-on-7, to Jake's credit, is really, to me, where you can really see those kids. And it's something else. And RJ can speak to this. So can Coach Jans. It also shows you those kids who will pout when things don't go their way.
Oh, yeah.
Kid over there sitting by himself.
Body language.
Such and such. RJ done locked him up. He mad. Everybody done saw it. Coach Jans, he pouting. He throwing his, I'm like,
Yeah.
He wanted, okay. Yeah.
So
7-on-7 really, 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 it'll let you see what's what.
You got a question right here for you, Coach Sean. King Cali says, Coach Sean, which of the young corners rises to the top early? Great question.
Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, Zabian Brown.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on Zabian before he got to Alabama. Coso, his coach Jans. I know Jans want to get in on this one. I'm going to pass it to Jans. Zabian fundamentally is awesome. Remember, and I'm going to throw it to Coach Jans. Zabian played well in A-Day. He gave up that one play that was, and I was telling RJ about it earlier. It's an old school play where you release the receiver across the formation, RJ. Young DB don't understand. He trailing him. He bumping into the linebackers. What's the number 5 from Washington?
Bernard.
Jerry Bernard.
And he's a nuanced wide receiver.
Yeah, they just ran an old school play on the young kid. Other than that, Zabian played well. Go ahead, Coach Jay. Let me plug this charge up.
You're on mute, Chance. It's got to happen once a live stream.
Always.
Yep, always wants to last year. Now I'll be quick on Zabian Brown because I can go on for hours about this kid, man. I'm a big fan of modern day kids. Unlike a certain coach out there who doesn't want to recruit that region, but I'm a big fan.
A certain coach who just lost a 4-star safety yesterday, Chance, perhaps.
Don't get that started. No, geez,
that guy over there doesn't want to recruit that.
Don't get Jans started.
No, but Zabian Brown's a hell of a corner. I mean, I think out of all the corners, I think a part of this Bama class in terms of instincts, in terms of mechanics, in terms of just pure ability, I think he's the best out of all of them. I think honestly he's the most ready true freshman that could potentially challenge that starting position at corner on the outside in my personal opinion. These modern day kids, man, they're taught. Like, you look at their coaching staff. I mean, like, listen, there's a reason why these coaches are getting paid top dollar, and I mean top dollar. Some more than some assistant, college coaches out there. I mean, these are getting paid top dollar. And Zabian Brown was one of those kids that performed extremely well in camp settings, was going against the best competition, and all throughout high school, throughout his entire career. And I'm excited for this kid, man. I'm extremely excited for what he was able to do. And what I saw from that A-Day game just continued to prove me right.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a really strong spring. And I've often referred to it as Nick Saban's parting gift. 3 5-star defensive backs in Alabama's last recruiting class. And I completely agree, guys. You have Zabian Brown, who's the most college ready. Jalen Mbakwe, who once he
by far.
Once he just settles in one position, cornerback, I mean, sky's the limit for him. And then Coach Sean, the one that I was just praying.
Yeah, exactly.
Zay Mincy is freaky, right? Like, once everything starts, 6'3", good speed, good coverage ability. Once he, Mbakwe, Zabian Brown get acclimated to the college game, that's going to be an elite haul of DBs. But Zabian Brown, I don't think that there's a question. Guys, they were talking in the All-American game. I don't know how many people watched this, but he had a great battle against Jeremiah Smith. And we all know what Jeremiah Smith is, a monster, a full problem. I wouldn't be shocked if he was getting a lot of reps this year at Ohio State and ended up being one of their best wide receivers because he's that good. They put Zabian Brown on him, and it was a full-on battle. Zabian Brown won some reps. Jeremiah Smith won some reps. Exactly what you would expect from two of the top prospects battling it out. I mean, it was, in my opinion, the most entertaining thing about that All-American game was focusing in on Jeremiah Smith versus Xavier Brown. It was phenomenal. Xavier Brown, in my opinion, was the most college-ready defensive back of last year's class. His floor is so high, it's ridiculous. From a technical standpoint, just already ready. Right. Now, Jance, I did want you to speak briefly on this because, earlier this week, RJ, I don't know if we got on Lane Kiffin a little bit. Lane Kiffin had like 4 decommitments in a row, and we had some USC fans in here, and they were saying, are y'all going to keep that same energy when y'all were getting mad at Lincoln for Lane Kiffin? And I said, as a matter of fact, yes, we are. You came to the wrong place if you don't think we're going to keep it consistent over here. And we talked about it. USC, though, they just lost another guy, Hilton Stubbs. Yeah. And you want to know the difference for me, gentlemen? Ole Miss just lost 2 games last year to Alabama and Georgia. And I'm not saying that they don't have needs, that they don't need improvements. They do. They absolutely do. USC lost how many games? And they're going into I won't say more. The Pac-12 was as competitive as we've seen it in the past decade. This past season, I mean, the Pac-12 was the best. Isn't that ironic that on its deathbed, it's the best we've seen it in years?
Dude, so sad.
Right? Just unbelievable conference play this year out at the Pac-12. Going to make me tear up a little bit. But now you go into the Big Ten. You got to have defense. Jance, talk to me. They have lost their 2 major defensive guys up front, Isaiah Gibson, Justice Terry. And then you lose Hilton Stubbs, who is a monster out the state of Florida, 4-star safety. I think he's a top 5, top 10 safety in the nation, if I'm not mistaken. If someone wants to correct me on that.
Take a peek.
Chance, what do they need to do? Because I've seen some people saying that it's NIL for USC. It's not coming through. In my opinion, and I could be wrong, in my opinion, it's even if you're offering a kid like Justice Terry the same amount of money as Georgia is offering him, as Ohio State is offering him, heck, as Texas is offering him, as Bama, why would he pick USC over any of those destinations unless he just loves the environment and the coaching staff? All those places I've mentioned have developed better. They've put more guys to the NFL. They have a better situation in terms. So what's happening, Jance, at USC? What needs to happen? Because they did make great hires on the defensive side of the ball, but damn it, you got to get these wins if you're going to become the team you want to be.
Oh, we know what's happening. He's not recruiting to state, and that's the problem. You look at the 6 decommitments that's happened to him. Look what they're all from: Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. We understand that for the most part, we got to evolve. This is college football in terms of recruiting. You got to recruit all over your state. But when you prioritize kids, when you offer more kids to the state of Florida, from the state of Georgia, from the state of Alabama, even from the state of Alabama alone, you've offered more kids for this class compared to your own state. That's a problem. So he's clear. So he's not focused, and he is not focused on the priority. He's got two of the top schools in high school football in the world right in your backyard, and you've only offered in a combination of 6 offers to both those kids for this particular class. Now, why is the case? When both those schools have 40 Division I offers each, why did you offer only 6 to those particular to those particular athletes from those establishments? Why did you do that, Lincoln Riley? Because you wanted to prioritize outside of your state, and that's the issue. This is something that Brian Kelly had to learn. When he didn't recruit his state of Louisiana, when he didn't prioritize it and he decided to go elsewhere by focusing on the Midwest, which is a Notre Dame hotspot, that's what he tried to do. And it failed for him because guess what? His recruiting class was absolutely god-awful. Now, yes, I think the wins was able to translate. That was more so from the transfer portal and more so from past recruiting classes. So ironically, a lot of those players from the state of Louisiana. Once he actually found out and said, oh, okay, we got to focus on the state of Louisiana, which, by the way, he didn't just find that out on himself. He had a bunch of those people from inside tell him, bro, what are you doing? Why are you are destroying something that that previous coaches have built, which is building around that fence around our own state. Why aren't you focusing on the St. John Curtis? Why aren't you focusing on the University Lab? Why aren't you focusing on these on the Amites and all these other schools here, right? Why aren't you focusing there? And Brian, and to give into Brian Kelly's credit, the next following year, he focused on those establishments, and all of a sudden now they're getting top 10 classes again, right? And they're starting to get great, phenomenal talent that I think is going to help translate. That's going to help translate to wins, maybe even potentially even make it the playoffs. USC they're not doing that. They're not doing that at all. So this is not surprising to me that all of a sudden a bunch of kids from out of state wants to decommit. It's not surprising to me. And it's not surprising me at all that you have, in a way, again, this is still rumored, fractured those relationships with these coaches from Northern Cali and Southern Cali. This is no surprise to me at all. You have done this yourself for not prioritizing your state. Now all of a sudden, Oregon's going in there, kicking their feet up, right? Making themselves a BLT sandwich, stealing, right? Just doing whatever they want. Doing whatever they want to do. Arizona, Washington, Colorado, all these schools are just coming in, kicking in your door, putting their feet up, making a BLT sandwich with no mayo on it, and they're just doing it, getting a can of soda pop, and they're just doing whatever the hell they want to do in your state now. And it's nothing that you can do about it. It is nothing you can do about it to stop it. And it is your fault, Lincoln Riley. It is specifically your damn fault. And this is the reason why he needs to be fired. I'm sorry. He needs to be fired.
I don't know if he needs to be fired. I wouldn't go that far. Now, I will say this. To compare Louisiana to California is insane. Like, you want to recruit if you're in Louisiana, LSU, yes, because the best players come from Louisiana. Like, Cali, you got all them 5 stars over there. 2 or 3 of them will probably hit. All them other, like, you in the South is where the dudes is. Florida, Louisiana. Like, that's why you see everybody recruiting from there. That's why all the good teams, the athletes, all of that come from that way. So he's doing what Oregon is doing. You said Oregon. Oregon's actually recruiting the South. To be honest with you, you go look at their class, all them dudes are from the South. They just got one of what's the Cornelius kid from last year, the number 1 portal tackle from New York. They're doing that. You got to reach outside your zone, especially when you're not in the hotbed. Mm-hmm. Now, California, like I said, it's good, but for what they're going into, like, they have to transition to big boy ball. You hear me? Like, they got to start getting them guys. You can't. You might find 1 or 2 of them dogs up front in California, but if you want the real ones for what you ready to face, you won't go to Florida. You won't go to Louisiana. You know what I'm saying? You want to go down south to get them dudes. So I get what he's doing.
They're not even doing this. Yeah, like we understand trenches. No, there's no better place than Florida when it comes to attacking the trenches. But they're not even offering the skill position players. Perfect example: Marcus Harris, who just committed to Oklahoma, one of the best receivers in the country. He didn't even get an offer by USC. He didn't get an offer. One of the best receivers in the country, 4-star, modern day, right in their backyard. Didn't get an offer. That's the problem right there. We understand for certain position groups, you have to attack the different states. But again, if we go back to USC's dynasty, where the majority of those players came from, they came from Cali.
And they was hood kids though.
They
was hey, Dwayne Jarrett was straight from Compton, East Side, with my auntie, East Side. Yeah. Lindell
them
White.
dudes just happen to be all-time greats. You get Reggie Bush. You don't get no Reggie Bush everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, them is just dudes. Yeah, them dudes was just dudes. You hear me? Like, I mean, you can get your people from anywhere. I understand what you're saying, though. I feel what you're saying, though. But I think I think he's doing the right thing. Like, go recruit the South. But like, from what you about to do, like, ain't no more Pac-12. Go recruit the South, bro. Don't worry about the North. He might get fired anyway, to be honest with you, from what I'm hearing. But yeah, from what I'm understanding. But that's something else for a whole nother part of the cast. But that's just something.
And here's the other thing, Jance, you and I have talked about this. They made a hire this offseason, and I've said this before. I'll be very brief because I don't want to be a broken record. Matt Ince is now the linebackers, and he has his hand in defensive coordinator, right? And I know Lynn is the defensive coordinator, but I think that Matt Ince is some title along the lines of assistant defensive coordinator, something like that. Matt Ince was the head coach of North Dakota State. This dude is one. This dude knows what defense looks like. And I agree, North Dakota State is not the Big Ten. True. But if you can coach ball, you can coach ball. If you understand that you have to be physical, Lincoln has never shown the understanding of like, hey, we have to have a physical team. Now, in fairness, to be objective, that's why I do love the moves they've made on the defensive side. Getting Coach Henney in for the defensive line coach was just with the Rams. Getting Doug Belk in there at the secondary, someone who understands the SEC. Getting in a Lynn, I thought that was a great hire. A Matt Entz, that was a great hire. But you have to give these kids a reason to come there. And I think the hardest part for me, man, is that if you go into the Big Ten and you finish 5th, how is that helping your bottom line in recruiting? Because Bama, Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, Michigan, they're all going to pitch against you being like, hey, unless you just really want to be out in LA, like if you do, that's cool. By all means, that's awesome. But if you really want to be developed, why choose there when we have the history and we are making moves currently? You don't have to bet on anything. Now, there will be kids that want to make that bet, but I will say this. I think that Lincoln Riley is on a short list of coaches, right? Mario Cristobal, I think, has got a lot of pressure on him this year, especially getting in the quarterback he gets in, who is unbelievable. That kid they just got in for Miami is a monster. You go look at what he did at Washington State every week. He's so good, man. So good. But that creates pressure. I think Ryan Day has got a lot of pressure on him this year. You've lost to Michigan multiple times in a row, and the last time you lost to Michigan, Harbaugh wasn't even there. You lost to the offensive coordinator / offensive line coach. And you are Ryan Day, the head coach, who's getting mad at the Pat McAfee show about something an old ball coach said. And then you lose to someone who's not even a head coach. All respect to Sharon Moore. I think you're going to be just fine, right? If there's a Michigan fan in here. Yeah, I really like Coach Moore. I think that he's going to be a great. So that I'm not meaning any disrespect when I say that, but damn it, that's his first time being the head coach of Michigan, and you're Ryan Day with Ohio State. You've got one of the most talented rosters in college football. You don't have the distractions that Michigan currently has. How do you lose that game? And Michigan was a great team. I get it. They beat Bama. All is fair. I think Ryan Day's got a lot of pressure. I think Lincoln Riley has got a tremendous amount of pressure on him. And I think that the hiring of Matt Entz, that was one, whenever I saw it, I perked up in my seat. And I was like, oh, hold on. That's a great hire, but that just puts Lincoln's feet to the fire even more than they already were.
Let me say this, Ty. I want to direct this to RJ because he played all over the place. I think it was Jans who spoke on this because Lynn Shannonfeld may have posted it. RJ, speak to this. As far as two schools that Ty just talked about, USC and Miami, it's a lot of things to do in Los Angeles and Miami when the football team ain't that damn good.
Right.
What you think about that?
Are you asking me, does that play a part in recruiting? Or
yeah,
you asking me so
as far as the asses in the seats. Excuse me, Ty.
It plays a huge part, but it really just goes upon like whatever, like in my process was different than a lot of the other kids that I'm mentoring right now. So like I had a different reason for wanting to go to a school than this kid would. But if a kid goes somewhere, they might want to go to, I don't know why anybody, okay, I'm not gonna say it like that. I don't know if you guys have ever been to USC. It's in the hood. It's in the middle of the hood, right there.
Yeah.
It's like a community college, bro. Like, no, I'm cool.
All them 30s.
I'm cool, bro. I'm straight. I go outside the USC, sure, I don't get shot. I'm all right.
Facts.
I go to I'm okay on that. Some people just want to go to USC just because of the history.
Yeah.
Some people want to go to USC because they're from this side. They're from the South and want to see what it's like on the other side. Mm-hmm. Some people want to go, to LSU because they're from the other coast and want to come see what's like on the other side. So it really just depends on like what the kid wants. And I always tell, any kid that asks me that question, like, what would you always do? It's like, it's not about me, it's about you. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what is your, like, okay, we got this school lined out. In my personal opinion, out of all these schools, I would think this, but what are you thinking? Okay, you thinking here? All right, bet. Let's pull this school first. Let's go to this school first. And then we'll go back and we'll start, and we'll go back to every school. And we'll, at the end of the process, we'll see if everything fits what you want. make a list before we hit the road and
Yeah.
make sure every school lines up with what you want. Don't let these guys tell you you're gonna start and all that, bro. We not worried about that right now. Because what they all gonna tell you is you're gonna start, bro.
That's a fact.
They all gonna tell you you're gonna start. So what you want to do is you want to make out a list of questions, bro, and we got to make sure that the schools that you want hit every syllable. Then we got to look at the roster. We got to look at who's in front of you. So it's a lot that goes in. It's a lot that goes into it. I don't want to go down that road, but it's a lot that goes into it, and that does play a key part into it. The facilities play a part into it. I don't know if you guys have been to these facilities. Like, these facilities is crazy, bro. Like,
best facilities on the planet. Even better,
bro.
What's his name? Neymar. Neymar went to I think he went. I forgot which. No, I'm sorry. That's the wrong one. It was Jurgen. I know if you guys are probably not soccer fans, but Liverpool. They went to Notre Dame's campus. Liverpool's literally one of the most popular clubs on the planet with over 1 billion followers. They went to Notre Dame's facility and they said, "This is the best facility This is the best facility in the world. Who the hell is better than that?" I'm like, bro, you have no idea.
Yeah, you have no idea.
Yeah.
So LSU, I went to LSU a couple months ago. Crazy the stuff that they've done. The best facility. We went to Illinois, and this is gonna trip y'all out. I think Illinois might have one of the best. They upgraded their facilities like a year ago. They got a car wash inside the facility, bro.
Yeah, then Champagne.
You are not lying. That facility.
I said what?
Yeah.
Is this Illinois? Y'all got a car wash in here? You know what? Do I got any eligibility left? You want look at that clock? Tell me if I got something on there. Like, it's crazy. The facilities is getting insane.
It is.
So you really have to be able to keep up money wise. NIL collective. Can you compete? And that's what it's about to start turning into. And I know people don't like hearing that, but as we get into this transfer portal, NIL collective college football, that's what it's gonna start turning into. Because like I said, Illinois, of all people, probably got one of the greatest facilities and nobody knows about it. But what Illinois don't got is the money that Arkansas has. You know what I'm saying? They don't have the money. So now we're going into that because people can offer me money based on not NIL, but the collective. I can get an NIL deal because I'm a 5-star.
Yeah. By
going on my Instagram and eating this donut from the donut shop up the street. Then I got collective thing coming in every month.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's going to start turning into that eventually. And you really have to prep your kid for what interests you the most. Is it money? You got to be real with them. Do you just want bread? We can get you somewhere for the money if you just want bread. I won't even do no extra stuff for you. Bro. I'll just get you in the door and let you go. You just want money, we can do that if you want money and this and that. So it's really based on the kid.
Do you think the Southern kid, the kid from Bama, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, Louisiana, do you think the Southern kid go to USC and see 40,000, 30,000 in the stands and get not jealous, but feel, nah, I can't do this. I got to get back and use, because I remember the Miami kids 2 years ago when they played Texas A&M at Texas A&M.
Right.
And the kids from Miami, the quarterback, what was his name? Tyler Van Dyke at that time, I think it was.
Tyler Van Dyke, yeah.
Was talking about, they was like, bro, did you see all those people? Like, he was stoked by it on his post-game interview. He was like, because that's when I really found out. I'm like, wait, why are you acting like that? So I went back and did some history. Hell, they don't play but like in 25,000 people in Miami. Yeah, empty stadium practically. Yep. They had to play in a soccer stadium to make it look like it's a lot of people. And I was like, really? Then I found out the stadium was 40 minutes from Coral Gables.
From the Coral Gables, yep.
I was like, damn, really?
I didn't know that either until I went on not my visit, a visit with one of the kids that I was mentoring.
Yeah. And
we went out there and I didn't know that. I was like, damn, so you trying to tell me the stadium is an hour there?
That way.
I looked at my guy. Bro.
Yeah, they're like, I'm done. Yeah.
Bro. So you got to think about timing. Like, you got to get from practice to there, to the. I don't know, brother. By the time you get through with all that, it's gonna be the mom.
I can imagine as a Southern kid, Ty, that would bother me at some point. At some point, I'm seeing my brothers who I played with down there playing at Bama and Georgia and LSU and packed houses and fans going
100,000 plus.
Repeat what Damani Jackson said. Damani Jackson was the top athlete in California for years.
Sure was.
And remember what he said in that interview.
their spring game blew him out the water because he said there were more people screaming at the spring game than he saw in any game that he played in the Pac.
Wow.
Y'all do know USC got one of the worst stadiums in the country.
Yep, Coliseum.
Yeah, Coliseum.
Horrible.
It's gonna get renovated. They're gonna renovate that. They're gonna renovate it. I think they're gonna renovate it for the World Cup in a couple years. Because I think that's one of the stadiums being used, I think.
If you're just a fan, you won't know that though, because USC has that aura, that glow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you're just a fan, you don't know that USC stadium sucks. You don't know that USC's in the hood. You don't know that. You know what I'm saying? So once you start getting out of information, like, oh God, let's mark that off, or let's come back to that later. You know what I'm saying? So to go out there, and I think it really just to answer your question, it's based on the school. If you're used to playing in front of that kind of crowd, going out there, that USC ain't nothing. I personally, the biggest place that I played, I didn't play in the bowl game. I didn't play in 2012. I played the Sugar Bowl in the Louisiana Superdome. I didn't play in that. That was my transfer year. The biggest place that I played, the loudest place that I played, Florida, without a doubt. Florida and then Tennessee, probably 1A, 1B. But what makes Florida different is the atmosphere, the fans, and the passion. And like, just imagine, like, we getting off the bus and you got 1 million people chomping at you or screaming at you to get off the bus. It's insane. When we got into the stadium, before the game even started, it was packed, and I'm like, what? What is this? Is this a Super Bowl? Well, this is crazy. This is insane. And then I go to Louisville, we playing against Pitt and stuff like that. Y'all ain't got it. Y'all ain't got it.
Yeah.
So it's different. It's different.
That's the difference. That's the difference between why the SEC is so successful and why every other conference is just like any other conference. It's because of the atmosphere. It's not just because of the players and the type of athletes you get. It's the atmosphere that you're around. You go to Baton Rouge. I've always said this. I've been to Arrowhead. Trust me. I'm from Buffalo, so we jump through tables. Bill Stadium is loud. I'm telling you, it's really loud. But Baton Rouge is a different atmosphere. That's a party. That's like literally going to a party. You got the Deltas and the Omegas and the Alphas and the AKAs.
They play a lot of HBCU stuff. I went to HBCU stuff in the band. And they peed on our car. Bro. RJ, they peed on our car, bro. We had Bama flags on the window.
You ain't got to tell me nothing. You got to remember, I'm from there. I'm from New Orleans.
They wasn't having it.
Yeah.
They wasn't having it.
It's different in the South, but like I told you, they take it more. You get it's more serious in the South than it is. So when you go through all that early, and now all of a sudden, this ain't nothing real. Like ain't nothing going. Nothing really fazed me after the SEC stuff. Like I'm not gonna lie to you.
Texas A&M to me was loud, but it was
it's a different environment. It's a great environment. It's not like.
But it wasn't.
LSU is ridiculous.
This is the best way I can say it. For me, Texas A&M was professionally loud. Like everything was where it was supposed to be. The Army guys and everything was LSU, bruh. It was a 14-year-old, I say 13-year-old kid selling hot dogs and candy, and he had a Bama button on. They was throwing drink at him, cups. They was popcorn bags. It's a kid. They wasn't having it, bro. I'm telling you. LSU,
their food is
got to be ready.
That food, you go to the tailgate, man. I don't think I pay for one. I think Now
you're gonna eat good before the game. They're gonna love you before the game. And I ate stuff I couldn't even pronounce. You know what I mean? And it was wonderful, good and juiced up. When the game started, though, oh no.
The same people that are offering you food were the same people that were cutting you out, calling you. I'm like, bro, I thought we were cool. I'm like, what you?
Look, let me really quickly. If Bama wins or the other team wins and you talk, you might have to get your squabble on if you ain't careful.
Ain't no Mike. Some of them, yeah, we done had that. Yeah, ain't no Mike now. We're going to have to go. Yeah, we're going to have to go now.
LSU
already.
ain't the players, man. They
Yeah,
different.
we got to go. We got to go. Like
Yes.
at LSU, some of them people, they'll give you that food just to mess you up. Like, this how deep it is. Like, what y'all don't know, like some of them people down there in the voodoo real bad. You hear me?
Yes.
So they voodoo curse the food and feed it to the
opponent.
feed it to the opponent. Oh, bro. Like,
Skulls around
bro.
their neck. Yeah,
bro. Yeah, it's real, man. It's crazy.
Everybody should visit LSU. That is a real away atmosphere.
I love it, man. I love it.
That's a bucket list game for me, right? That's a bucket list game for me.
Yeah, absolutely, bro.
Is Tiger Stadium. Guys, we've been on for 2 hours, 53 minutes. I wanted to do one last topic, and we can fly through this. Jance, I wanted to start with you on this because listen, as far as I know, you're the most knowledgeable person in terms of what EA is looking to do. But their rankings came out the other day.
God.
For offense and defense, and some of those things just didn't quite add up. For instance, they had Clemson as the number 9 offense in the game. Meanwhile, Clemson was outside the top 45 last year in college football. Now, I get it. It's a projection based on this season. But, Jance, talk to us about EA Sports College Football 2025. These rankings that just came out. What stood out to you? What did you find offensive? What did you find that excited you?
Well, I'm pulling up the rankings right now. I'm just looking at it.
I can send them in the group chat.
I'm gonna send in the group chat. How in the hell is Colorado a top 20 team? I like Colorado. I like Prime. I like again Shador Sanders, high rating, understandable. Travis Hunter, high rating, understandable. How in the hell are they an 87 overall team? Who are they? I was getting they're getting no love.
How is Iowa as low as they are? Iowa should be above Notre Dame in top defenses.
LSU has a top 20 ranked defense. They were one of the worst defenses in the country. Colorado, it was the worst scoring defense in the country. They're top 20. Like
USC at 19.
Okay. Yeah, see, this is the problem with EA sometimes, man, is that sometimes their research team, they don't know what the hell they're talking about with their research team a lot. Now, I got a friend that was invited to EA, played the game. He says, man, you're going to be excited. He said Dynasty is retouched. The atmosphere, the presentation is absolutely incredible. So I'm excited to get my hands on it. But this is one of those aspects where it's like, man, we get it. You don't have them. They don't have that much information. They just don't. That's kind of one of the hard things about rating EA sports games, especially college football, is you don't have that much information. A lot of the best players are gone. They're now off to the NFL. They're, off somewhere else. So now all of a sudden you're going to have to kind of go back. The best teams were going to be, quarterbacks that were going to come back up. That's why Miami's rated so high. Miami, I think, is a top 10 rated school in the country, and a big of it was because of Cam Ward. But it's just like, man, Nebraska, I don't know why Nebraska, they're not even a top 30 defense. And listen, Nebraska's defensive line, I think, is going to be a key strength for them. Ole Miss doesn't even have a top ranked offense. We all know how good on paper that they are. Some of these rankings are just like, wow. It's just kind of bothering me. Listen, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. I expect these ratings to be updated during the season. I will say that.
Gentlemen, Iowa last year finished the year with the number 4 scoring defense in the nation. Only Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State were better. And yet when you look at this, Iowa comes in as the number 13 defense in the nation.
Who's number 1?
Ohio State with 96.
That makes sense.
Now, I understand Ohio State because they did all that work in the transfer portal, and they were the number 2 defense this past year. Fair. I don't mind Ohio State being number 1 on the defensive side. I don't mind that. I don't even mind Georgia being number 2, right? And then tied for 3 on defense is Oregon, Bama, both with 90s, and then Clemson with the 90, Notre Dame with the 90, Michigan for a 90. So really, you have a multi-way tie right there. But then you have Texas, Penn State, Utah, Florida State, Oklahoma, and then Iowa. And then I apologize. USC isn't. No way. Guys, they have USC's defense rankings as get this. This is a trip. Ready? USC's defense is ranked as the number 16, and it's ranked higher than their offense, which is going to be ranked 25.
Mm-hmm.
Are they doing it based on the overall of the players that are playing? Is it like the overall of the players? I don't know, because there's no way it's based on last season. Yeah, I think it's just based on overall of the players. For real.
Yeah, they do have like attributes. Like there's no like attributes now. Like there's superstar, star. Player. So I think
I played it already.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you played it already?
Yeah, man. I got one of my kids that's back in UK. Gave me a little sneak peek of it, man, and we got on and he shared it and I played it for a little bit. It's all right, man. Y'all gonna like the career mode though. It's crazy. It's lit how they do that, but it's cool, man. I can't wait for it to come out for real.
See, I'm just itching for a college football game.
Realistic expectation, though. It's see, because people think that this is going to be the greatest thing on planet Earth. I'm like, dude, this is EA we're talking about. It's going to be solid. It's going to be a solid, but let's not have it too high. Let's not raise the bar a little bit too high. I know people were pissed off about the I know the stadium joint was. People were livid that Texas A&M was number one in terms of toughest environment to play in. It was Kyle Field. Auburn, it was what are they right now? They are 14th right now for toughest.
Bryant Denny was second.
Yeah, that's who are they asking for these rankings?
And I'm a Bama fan.
Texas A&M at number one is crazy.
I think Alabama over LSU is not correct.
Yeah, Bryant Denny's top 10. Bryant Denny's top 10, but like,
yeah, it ain't number 2. It's not.
The Puddle Kittens over there in LSU, they got a hell of an environment. They'll be the Bayou Bengals once they return to defense, but until then, they're the Puddle
Kittens. Sparty Stadium was at number 22. I'm like, what? Michigan State's tough to play in?
Michigan State.
I don't know about 26 though.
Penn State's got a hell of an environment. I always love that clip of, and they advertised it actually on the game. Washington.
Y'all want to know somewhere that was tough to play? And if you go look at the record, you'll see it. But I bet you they don't even have it on there. NC State is very tough to win. It's tough to go in NC State and win. That's one of the toughest places that we've been.
They're just a solid team most years, right? Like, it's not like they might be the best, but they're just disciplined. And if
just something about the stadium, just I don't know. They're weird. They can be trash, and then you go to NC State and you'll lose by 50.
Well, I'll tell you this: Jordan Hare becomes a lot easier to play in once you burn the sage in the stadium to get all the bad spirits out of there. Yeah. And then it's an okay environment. But this past year, guys, I'm sorry, I forgot to burn the sage before the game, and that's why you had 4th and 31, right? Like, that's on me. That's my bad. Won't happen again. I'll bring the sage next time, and we'll walk the stadium.
You want to know what's wild is at one point, and I don't know if they still hold this, but Washington had the record for the loudest stadium. It's the noise. It's like Seahawks Stadium. The noise there, the way they do the roof, because it's like metal.
They keep it down.
It bounces the sound down onto the turf, and then you have the water on the backside. And now they closed off the stadium, so now it's just. I mean, it's loud. I'll tell you right now, especially when you get a full stadium, because I mean, it's only like I think it rounds up to like 72 or 74,000, but then you basically double that because of the way the sound comes back down onto the field. It's loud when it's full. You know,
gentlemen, we have been going for over 3 hours. I think it's about that time, right? Got some commitments coming down the pipe we're excited about, but I want to let everybody go around the table, let the people know where they can find you, whether that's Twitter, Instagram, YouTube channels. Y'all know the drill. RJ, we'll start with you, and then we'll just go straight down the line from RJ to Coach Sean to Coach Jay to Jake.
Yeah, man. RJ Malone, man. It's good to be back on here with Ty, man. Good to be on here with you guys, man. If you want to come support me, my Instagram's right here on my handle, Instagram. Highlight Real Bumpers. Like I said, I'm out here in Arizona right now. Currently playing arena football, but I am training athletes across the country. I have some kids. Like I said, I got some kids in Kentucky, in the South. I have a couple of kids I just, took on out here that are going to be going on and playing their last season. Shout out to Justin Flows, linebacker that's in Arizona. I've been working with him for a couple of years. But yeah, man, Justin, he's a good kid, man. I met him. I came out here last year and I met him then. And we kind of stayed in touch, and it's been kind of one of those big bro, little bro things. And when I came back out, I told him, I was like, yeah, man, I'm coming because they play Colorado this year. So that's going to be one of the games I'm going to go to. Go out there and watch them lose to Colorado. But I go live on my Instagram all the time, and I'm always talking to my kids, man. We're joking around. We're having fun. I'm congratulating kids. I'm talking about what's going on next, either with my next team I'm signed to, one of the kids that I got that is working with, anything. You find it on Instagram, man. Just hit me on Instagram. If you want to work with me, if you're somewhere in out here and out here in this coast, just hit my Instagram, man. We can work. I'll be back on the other coast in a couple months. If you want any information about how to help your kid through the recruiting process or anything like that, definitely hit me up. I'm here for that as well. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to you guys, man. I appreciate you guys tuning in, man. Make sure y'all hit that like on the way out. Oh, you hear me? Hit that like button, man. Yeah, already.
Appreciate having you on, RJ. It's been way too long, man. Way too long. Great time anytime I get to talk to you. And you need to start a YouTube channel, man.
I don't know, man. Somebody already said that, but I wouldn't even know where to start, bro.
You just start uploading, man. That's it. But what you got going, I think it'd be really successful taking it over to YouTube. I think you'd have a great time doing it as well.
Well, I'll hook up with y'all, and we'll see where that goes.
We got you. Don't worry about that. We'll get you taken care of and how to get it kicked off. That's not an issue.
But already, man. Yeah.
Coach Sean.
Coach Sean, same old. First of all, shout out to Coach Carl Taylor who did content with me, and shout out to Lynn Shannonfeld, all the bros in the chat, all my brothers on the panel right here, man. Great guys. I tell you this, RJ, they pushed me along with my brother Coach Smook, who really pushed me off the ladder to start this. I hadn't been on very long myself. Probably we did another channel, last season, but as far as my own personal one, I think maybe a month and a half, 2 months, maybe about 2 months tops. And channel doing well. People tap in. People just enjoy talking football, man, and they know we're not going to BS them, right? Coach Jay can tell you, been with Coach Jay for a while. We've been doing another channel, been with Ty for a while. Jake came on, did one hell of a job, right? Shout out to Coach Smook. Shout out to Brinsky. Shout out to Jason. Shout out to all the Oklahoma. Shout out to Coop. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to all the Oklahoma DG. All those guys are great. Fanatics Perspective over there at Texas. They do a great job, man. Shout out to those guys. You can find me at JMHO. It's just my humble opinion. That's all it is. JMHO Sports Talk. That's on Twitter and YouTube. JMHO Sports Talk.
Before you jump in, Jance, I want to give a shout out to Lynn Shaneyfelt with the $25 donation saying, great job, coaches and Ty. I always want to support my team. Great show. We should get 2 out of 3 today. Hey, I hope. I certainly hope so. Really looking forward to these commitments.
Lynn got the connection now. If Lynn said it, you better believe it.
No, RJ.
Lynn is that dude, man.
You want to talk about connected, bro?
Yeah.
Lynn's got the connections to
Lynn
Alabama, no question.
I love. Before you get to Coach Jay, Lynn, shout out to Lynn. We was at A-Day cooking like a damn potato. It was 130,000 degrees out there. Right?
Sounds about right.
Lynn called Coach Smook, like, Coach Smook, tell Coach Sean, y'all come on up here to the ivory box. Y'all come on. Shout out to Lynn. I didn't get the damn call though till after, but hey, man, shout out to Lynn. That's my guy, man. Love him to death. And a big thank you to Ty for having all of us on here, man.
No, thank you to y'all. Like, the show's nothing with just me, right? The show is made by having these great discussions, these great panels. So I'm the one who should thank y'all. No doubt about it, right? That's what makes this what it is. Nobody would want to tune in for me just rambling incoherently for 3 hours. I can do it. You ask my wife. I can do it. But, this is what makes it, is you guys coming on and us having unbelievable discussions. The guy I've been streaming with the longest, Jance, let them know. I mean, at this point, if they don't know where they can find you, they haven't been tapped into the channel.
Yep, Jance Sports on YouTube. boy, I was literally contemplating not showing up because my voice is sore. Just watched my the U.S. men's
I'm
national
so sorry
team
you did that to yourself.
just embarrassed themselves in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Thank God, thank the Lord, I sold my tickets because I had those tickets to Atlanta, and they got embarrassed by Panama. I just, man, I don't know. I don't know what about that team. But yeah, if you want to check out the channel, definitely check out Jant Sports on YouTube, of course, Twitter, Jant716. I'm always in spaces and I'm always having conversations and talking sports and stuff like that. So yeah, if you want to check me out, ranting, screaming my guts out, and just losing my voice and sweating and just dying from anger, check me out, Jant Sports.
And you get him started, and you're gonna have an epic rant. And I still,
snapping.
if you haven't clipped, Chance, the ones from my stream, I will send you the downloads.
I'm trying to figure out how to clip. I'm trying to figure out how to clip it.
How about this? I'll send you the entire downloaded streams.
Okay.
If I still, I think I still have the last one. I might still have both of them downloaded, and if I do. And even if not, I think I can download them from YouTube. We'll figure it out, though. We'll figure it out because you need to upload those rants on your channel. Yeah. They're going to get traction. RJ, I don't know if you saw them. I was in tears. 2 streams in a row as he was going ballistic. Hilarious.
But wait till the pro season start, Ty. The pro season and the Buffalo Bills, Jans be going. Oh, man, it's one. I watch them over and over and over.
Oh, well, y'all saw me whenever my Vikings messed up the draft.
You're a Vikings fan? I'm sorry, bro.
I know.
They be going off, man.
Know.
He do.
It's okay, though, right? It could be worse. It could be better. But it could be worse, I guess. I don't know, man. I don't even want to talk about NFL after the draft we had. Dallas Turner was a great pick. But how in the world? Trade the other pick, get Spencer Rattler in the second, and then you could get Kool-Aid as well in the second round by trading that.
Listen, that was the stupidest quarterback. I've never seen teams reach a quarterbacks unlike that. What I just like, that was the stupidest draft. Everybody just set themselves back 7 years, except for maybe the Bears. I'm a Commanders fan. I don't know if because usually what happens is when you draft quarterbacks 1, 2, 3, they never work out. In the history of the NFL, it's only happened 4 times that quarterbacks get drafted 1, 2, 3. All 4 occasions, only one of them has made it. Not more than one. All of them been bust. So I'm being
ruined my day talking about the Vikings draft.
2, 3, 4.
Go look at it. Go look at it. Anytime. So in the history of the NFL draft, it's only been 4 times that quarterbacks have went 1, 2, 3. This past year and the other year was can y'all guess who it was? Y'all want to know who it was? Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, was it Trevor Lawrence?
Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Trey Lance.
Yep.
How did that work out? We don't even know on Trevor Lawrence, really, do we? Right? And then before that, it was all the way in the 70s. So it's like there's proof of concept that this probably won't work. We'll see what happens, though. We'll see what happens.
Well, I'll tell you what will work. And that's this last guy's new YouTube channel that you guys need to be tapped into. Jake, tell them know where they – oh, boy. That's how you know we've been on for a while. I just fumbled that. Let them know – where they can find all your great stuff. That's what 3 hours of rambling and yapping gets you, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, dude, it's all good. It was a good time today, man. As it is every Friday. Fridays with the fellas and Monday evenings around the table. I mean, it's awesome. It's a pleasure and an honor to be on with these guys. RJ, it's a pleasure to meet you. First one, and look forward to seeing you in the future. For me, I did just start a new YouTube channel. And Set the Tone, Alabama College Football Talk. You can find the link on my X or Twitter page. You can also search in YouTube using my Twitter handle @coach_Jmayer. It's all capital letters. And subscribe. Come check out the videos. Throw some likes. Throw some comments in if you do like the videos. And we'll be releasing another one today. So it's going to be fun. And man, it's cool to get one started. You know, I'm so new to the YouTube game. Like I said, I played, I coached, I did some skills training one-on-one. So I really enjoyed it. And, you know, I have another background too, man. I worked law enforcement and did some other stuff too. So it's pretty interesting. But I'll tell you, you know, really a pleasure to be on with these guys and just to meet everybody. You know, I've had some really good interactions and meeting new people through doing this. And, you know, the biggest thing for me is I love the game of football, right? I love the game of football. It was an honor to have the chance to play the game at such a high level. And it's even more of an honor to share the game with all of you and to connect with all of you. So if you ever want to collaborate, anybody or whatnot, just shoot me a message through Twitter or DM, and I'm down. And it's just fun. I'm looking forward to continuing to bring great content on these guys' channels and on my own now. So that's right. Love it.
And before we get out of here, we had over 600 viewers combined live at once right now, still at 6:02 combined with YouTube and Twitter. If you're watching on Twitter, be sure to jump over to YouTube, subscribe to all these guys' channel, and subscribe to Around the Table Sports. That way, when we go live Monday evening, which we will be going live to Twitter again, and we certainly appreciate you watching on Twitter. But if you want to interact in the comments, if you want to get in to the sport debates that are happening in the comments, come on over to the YouTube channel, right? Subscribe, hop in the comments. You get shouted out a lot whenever you're in the comments, right? Like we're constantly interacting with all of you in the comments. We're constantly trying to walk the line of an informative show, but also an interactive college football show. And that's something that I don't think you find all over the place, right? It's part of the reason why YouTube content creators are kind of owning the college football sphere right now. And the traditional media that does well, it's because they're amazing. Shout out to Josh Pate at the Late Kick, the absolute gold standard in this industry, in my opinion. But, you know, guys, and for all of you watching on Twitter, there is another member of this panel you have not heard from. But now you will. And that's the spinning wheel of doom. And until next time, you'll hear from him next Monday.
Hey,
and it's
real quick.